before the show started that there's a shortage of the 77-inch. It's been out of stock for months now, right? And looks like Robert's going to get the 77-inch A95L probably end of the month, February 28th. And also, not many people know that it may even be the third gen panel too, because Samsung stopped making second gen a few months ago. So moving forward, even if it's still only the A95L, it may be using the more efficient, more durable third gen. Now, performance may not necessarily be different, but at least you're getting the latest and greatest. So obviously, we can't confirm until we see the TVs, but production runs being what they are, maybe it's third gen. That's my hope. So if Robert can give us any insight from Sony, that'd be awesome. But welcome. Monday, everyone's here. Hey, AJ's here. Commandant Clink used to watch Hogan's Heroes all the time when he came home from school. Mini Cujo is here. Jay, hey Jay, hey Jay, and a couple of new faces. Am I too quiet? Oh, let me turn up my audio just a touch here. All right, how's my audio now? Is that better? Check, check, audio check. I'm using a slightly different microphone, so depending on you guys, let me know that our audios are similar.
Yo, right, mic check, mic check, mic check.
Yeah, you sound great to me in my headphones,
awesome.
At least.
Very cool.
So today, let's throw up. What are we talking about today? We are talking about 2024 Sony TVs and whatever you guys want, right? But I think, and the reason we're talking about it is this came up on the AVS forums, right? So someone on AVS forums found the registration that Sony put up in Asia, and at least we know some of their lineup. So specifically, we're going to talk about, first of all, they didn't mention the OLED models, but we have an idea of what kind of OLED models are out there. And we'll also talk about the actual names of the mini LED TV and LCD TV that are not mini LED that has been registered. So we're going to talk about that and what our expectations are so that you guys can prepare accordingly. Because a lot of people are asking, wait, the X95L, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Should I just wait? And so, Brian, what do we tell people about waiting now that we're this far into the year? Do you think they should get the X95L, or is there a case for waiting or not waiting? What are your thoughts?
For the X95L or the A95L?
So the X95L, they're ready to pull the trigger, but then we know the flagship mini LED is coming, right? And let me just put, since we're talking about, let's put that in right now.
So the X90,
the XR90. Mini
LED. So the X95L was probably Sony's best mini LED to date, as far as being all around great. It was bright enough, excellent local dimming, blooming was minimal, XR clear, great gaming features. Why it's on the don't buy list for now is the prototype we saw at CES is game changing. So if you are in the market,
wait, Brian. Nigel is asking, do I need to sell my X95L already?
Well, if you want to be on the cutting edge, and FOMO and I are doing a video now called FOMO versus buyer's remorse.
Yep.
And the fact is, if you're in need of a TV, you don't have one, there's an empty spot there, it's time for you to buy. But I say this to Robert too, we talk about this all the time. You can't regret the X95L if you didn't pay full price for it. If you paid full price for it, that means you got that last year. So a lot of people have that regret because they're saying, hey, I just bought it, what the heck? But you did buy it at a very discounted price, and the prototype will be brand new and it'll be very expensive. It'll be very expensive.
And let's talk about price. Val Electronics is Robert, right? So those of you who don't know, Val Electronics, when you see that,
that's
Robert's zone. And so he wants to let people know he'll be able to announce the launch date and prices, and we're going to bring him on. So Robert can then, in person, right, Robert, announce it and talk about it, and he'll be here to answer questions about availability, pricing, what he thinks is the best value in terms of performance, what you need. And Robert has probably seen more Sony TVs than all of us combined, right? He's probably forgotten more Sony models than I remember ever seeing. So when that happens, we'll have a date and we'll bring Robert on to just talk about the excitement of the 2024 models, because by then all of us will have had a chance to share what we're allowed to share at that time. And all will be disclosed. model numbers, exactly the model numbers, OLED, QD OLED, and so forth.
Well,
But
I'll tell you right now, this is the first
uh,
time, and I'll be as honest with you guys as possible. This is the first time that I have not wanted to talk about what we're going to talk about. Because to me, it's a letdown getting this information because it sounds ridiculous. You know, I want to be surprised, as close to surprise as I can. Getting this stuff leaked so far before Sony can actually announce it with their presentation, it just ruins it for me. And I know we have to comment on it because we have to be responsible and discuss it, but it's one of those things where it's like getting a glimpse of the video game that's a prototype that's might not be that way. It's almost useless. We have to comment on it and we have to discuss it, but this is the first time I haven't really been excited about talking about a subject before because I was bummed out to see it laid out that way. I want to see the FOMO, you know what I'm saying? When I get this information, I want to see it next to the TV. I want to see it brought out by Sony, not on some graph from God knows where, which even if it's accurate, it just messes up the surprise for me. For me personally, I don't. You guys probably don't feel the same way, but I do.
And to be fair, Brian, it's that whole Christmas, right? Or
yeah, man, there's no surprises left, bro.
You want to open it early? Do you want to open it late? Like what kind of a Christmas unwrapping are you, right?
Well, I guess my thing is, if you remember when last year's lineup was announced, we had some of that early too. But seeing the way Sony did their video and exploded and it showed all what was coming and it had the little, let me get that first. Getting it like this, as if I work there. I know Robert has this, but Robert and dealers were able to see the lineup because that's the way it's supposed to be for them. They have to be able to see the lineup. They're sworn to secrecy. I never ask Robert for more information. Never. Since I know he wouldn't give it to me anyway, but I don't want to know. I want to wait for it to be presented to me with a picture of the TV, the specs. I'd rather have Rob Brennan telling me about it versus me looking at it like this. That looks like a time card from some restaurant. Where do I punch in?
And we're just going to focus really on the top two, right? I mean, it looks like it's okay. So this is what we know. There are no specs attached to this. This is on AVS forums. Right? So you go there, look on the thread talking about 2024 TVs, right? At least we know two things. There's an XR90 and XR70. Now, these are registered as Sony is ready to go on sale with them. Doesn't mean there's no XR80. Maybe there's an XR95.
Yep.
As those things come out, we'll find out, right? Though we do know that the size differences means that normally when it starts at 65-inch, that's their very good model. Now, is there something better than the XR90? Possibly, but for sure the XR90 is good enough to be limited to the 65, 75, and 85-inch sizes, whereas the XR70 starts at 55. And many of us are really we're hedging our bets. The XR70 is the successor to the X90L.
90. Yep.
Right, the X90 and the XR90 is that step up model, or two steps up, because we're missing an XR80, and maybe two steps up makes it the 4,000 nit flagship. And either way, so we'll just call it XR90 for now. The 4,000 nit flagship as a placeholder, it might end up being XR95, who knows? But let's just talk about that, because a lot of people are either ready to pull the trigger on the X95L, or they already did, and maybe they're within the return period, and like, oh, wait a minute, if this is coming out, should I wait? And the things that you have to keep in mind is it's not going to be the same price. I suspect it's a bit more expensive for the size that whatever size you have. If you're waiting for the XR90, the flagship, you're waiting for a much more expensive experience as well as a better experience. But if you're just watching streaming and YouTube, it may not be worth it. So someone asked, right? They're ready to pull the trigger on X95L. But if all you're watching is YouTube and just news and sports, I don't think you should wait. But if you are watching movies where you have Kaleidoscape, you have Blu-ray discs, you want the highest bit rate from your streaming content because you want 4,000 nit content when it's ready. You want to see it in all its glory, maybe 2 or 3 years from now. That's when you would get the XR90. So it really depends on your use case. So for you personally, Brian, is the XR90 something you would get? Because I know you're an OLED guy now. Does XR90 change that narrative for you? Are you going to get that?
Well, if the XR90 is and this is a little sneak peek into our video tomorrow and our previous video, where FOMO's one of his favorite picks was the 900D from Samsung. The existence of the prototype and the reference monitor that goes with it that has a 4000 nit content, which is already being made. A lot of us are like, yeah, you know what? Let me get that. I want that. Let's get that. So even and I'll say this to Robert right now, because he almost got a message from me. I was ready to pre-order the G4. Just pre-order it. Just say, Robert, let me get it. It'll be great to have it on the channel. I'll put it against. But I was by myself saying, you know what? I might want that X90 only because you guys, the local dimming on that thing is the best thing I've ever seen.
It is
from any mini LED. If that can give me some of that micro contrast FOMO with 4000 nits, it'll blow any OLED away.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say that and then go, okay, I need that. However, do you see what I'm saying? Because for those of you with the X95, here's the problem. To say bring it back, I don't like anybody bringing anything back if they can help it. However, you're going to bring it back and then what? Wait 3 months? That TV's not coming out tomorrow. That TV may be out at the end of the year. It might be A9502.
November. Right?
Yeah, you never know. So it's a very interesting conversation to have.
And gonna catch up on some super chats real quick. James, thank you for that super chat.
FOMO, I'm gonna hop out real quick. My internet's back. I'm gonna jump back over to the computer. Okay.
All right.
I'll meet you over there. Bye.
All right. James, thank you for the super chat. I got the S89C, and man, it's incredible. So this is the 77-inch, unique to Best Buy, the 77-inch S90C repackaged, a little bit cheaper. At Best Buy, they're selling it for under $2,000. I think it's $1,800 if you get it on President's Day sale. Man, it's incredible. I had some regret initially buying a TV that expensive. Yeah, you know, $1,800, $1,900 for a TV is not inexpensive. Whoa, if you're usually paying $500, this is like almost 4 times your budget. This TV is experience gaming on. Yes, you got a TV that all of us reviewers have agreed. This is a solid gaming TV, but solid all around in everything, right? Whether it's the S90C or the S89C. And by the way, the S90C is sold out at both the Samsung website and at Best Buy. So if you want a 77-inch 2023 QD OLED, you better get it. This one, the S89C. I think there's still some of those available, and the price is phenomenal. But that goes to me reminding you guys, the good TVs from 2023 are beginning to sell out. The 85-inch U8K, they're all gone. There was another model that was all gone I wanted to talk about, but some of them are still there. For example, the 83-inch S90C WOLED, still available at the Samsung.com website. If you are an offers member, I had someone pay under $2,500. I think they were a first responder, and they couldn't believe it, right? They called up in chat, they asked for the deal, even though it's posted on the site as like $3,149. They asked, and they got, you know what? We'll get it to you for $2,500. And he's like, done. So 83-inch S90C, if you're an offers member, definitely ask for that deal. Try to get it for under $2,600, and you're probably going to get it. So that is probably the best 83-inch WOLED deal out there right now, is the S90C. But thank you for that super chat, my friend. Let's jump into the next one. Hey, Rob, is there a new 8K TV model this year? We're not seeing it on Sony. We haven't heard any rumors about it. I think this year Sony wants to focus their flagship attention on the 4K XR90, if that's the flagship. But whatever the 4000 nit flagship ends up being, that's the focus this year. That's a 4K TV. But just to let you know, Rob, you're not missing out if it's not 8K. Even if it's a 100-inch TV, 8K, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, on the Samsung QN900D, that is 8K. That's uniquely using the AI neural network processing that's not available on the 4K. So I'm curious about that. So I would get the 8K just to check out that AI processing, but it doesn't mean that it's 8K is better. It's just they have that processing system on it, right? The updated processor. So if you're curious about that, that would be a reason to get 8K, but not Sony. They're not having an 8K TV, I don't believe, this year. Samsung does, and Samsung is probably the only 2024 TV model that has it, and that would be the Samsung QN900D. TCL's not introducing an 8K TV this year. Hisense is not introducing one. LG is sending us last year's 8K OLED, but that's $20,000. So if you're open to that, but yeah, let me know, what is your use case that you would need an 8K TV? I'm curious. Hey, thank you for that super chat. Eyes of Buys, desperate for opinion on $1,300 65-inch QNED 96. No, if it's QNED, if it's LG's QNED, I thought the execution was poor in many ways. 1,300, it's not to me. 1,300 for 65-inch, you could do better with other TVs. Hisense U8K, for example, is less expensive than that. Or the Sony XR90 is 1,100, 65-inch. I think you'll get a better experience there as well. Or the Samsung QN90D would be better. If you go to the Samsung website, you might get it for under $1,500. But I'd stay away from the QNEDs from LG, only because people have been complaining about some of its issues. So, I cannot go with that. That model is 2 years old now. Not a fan. Not a fan. LG is known for their WOLED, but their LCD TVs need some love. All right. Let's see here. Find some of your questions here, my friend. Jeff is telling us S89C 77-inch and Best Buy Canada is $4,000. Oh man, yeah, that is not a deal for sure. And the Samsung AI will take you to the new 2024 moon landing. Yep, they're going to fill in the gaps. The question is, how much of a gap will that AI fill, right? Hey, FOMO, what is the next iteration of the X90L and the X93L? So that would be the XR70. I think the XR70 is going to be their entry level. And best case, it's the X90L plus more dimming zones, which means that it could probably have more contrast than the current X90L. The X93L is definitely a step above. It would have to be an XR80. Otherwise, you're jumping from an X90L level performance all the way up to a super expensive XR90 with nothing in between, similar to the X93L. So if you're in the market for an X93L, get the X95L. That would be the filler, I suspect. And that's probably what Sony would say. There's a lot of X95Ls in stock. There's a lot of X93Ls in stock. And I believe Sony's like, wait, those two TVs are really good. We're not going to fill that gap between the XR70 and the XR90. Just get last year's TV. That would fill the gap. What do you think of that theory, Brian? Where, wait, unless they sell out of the X93 or X95L, why should they have a model between the XR70 and the XR90?
Yeah, I mean, that's, as I was saying.
As you were saying.
How's my audio? I just
Perfect.
switched back over to my laptop. So as I was, the X93 last year was actually a challenge because it didn't have XR Clear. Still a great TV. If you want a TV that's on a price cut, that's very bright, that is a step up from the X95K, the X93L is great. Well, you and I were both hoping we'd have a stopgap in between, as you just mentioned, going from the price of an X90, X70, I guess is what we're calling it. Mm-hmm. I'd rather see a stopgap there. I don't like buying last year's model because if you're an enthusiast, that's not an option.
Right.
The enthusiast really is going to want, it's a bridge too far, as you mentioned. Unless the X70 is greatly improved, it's very hard to go from an X90L to an X95. There's a lot of gradation steps between that. So I don't like that, actually. I don't love the simplification of the lineups this much. Samsung, as we mentioned, has too many. 7, 75, 75N, Sony, I know, has been more focused. It's easier, but it's without a Z series there, without maybe possibly not an A95, the L flagship, it's kind of bare bones. I'd love to have more offerings because someone's going to say to us, FOMO, look, I have this much money. I really don't want to get a smaller 90, but I don't want to go with the entry level. So I think we're both hoping that the 70 will be a big jump in terms of quality. Maybe it's mini LED. Maybe it's got...
I'm hoping it is.
We're hoping, yeah, because the full array local dimming, the X90L is excellent, but it was really, as soon as people said, right, FOMO, they wanted it, And then we had a bunch of questions when it first launched, but is that full array? And you're like,
Right.
actually it is. And then you had Hisense and TCL sitting there with these mini LEDs and Samsung. And it was really hard to sell the X90, but the X90 became very popular as it always does. But the
It was so
93,
close in performance more often than not. That's why I
yeah.
loved it.
So I love to have a 93 there. I think Robert would probably concur on that, to give us
Yeah.
just another mid-high. And quickly, if you guys remember the good old days of 2017, you had the 900, the 930, the 940, the Z9D. I think a lot of us wish we had those steps back.
Agreed. And Rob wants to continue this conversation about
What's up, Rob?
recommendation for an 8K TV. He's looking for a new Sony 8K TV this year for movies. And we know that the Sony 8K, the most current 8K is still 2 years old. That would be the Z9K, right?
Yep.
And it's okay, but honestly, for critical movie watching, it's not better than the X95L. And it's more expensive. I would recommend getting the 85-inch X95L because movie watching, if you're watching movies, they're not at the brightness that the Z9K will get, and its contrast is better. Its dimming zone control is better. It's simply a more technically superior TV. So forget the 8K. It's a brighter TV. That's what the Z9K brings you. But the X95L does more with those dimming zones, I think. So,
It's more refined. It's a more
It is.
refined experience. And Rob, I guess I would ask you, and I think FOMO is the same way. What about 8K are you looking for? You know, are you looking for that in terms of gaming? Are you looking at the Z9K? I love the Z9K, but it is a blunt object. It's a brute force tool, which I love about it. But as FOMO just mentioned, I remember we did this FOMO with the A9G. It had a 2-year life cycle, and people really wanted that TV. There was something very attractive about it. And we got to the point, FOMO, we're like, look, the new step down I think it was an A8H or whatever, was better. Whoa, what do you mean? You're like, I'm just saying, the Master Series thing is very attractive. You just got to go with your mind on it. Samsung's leading the charge in 8K this year, though they're pretty much alone other than the Z3
They are.
from LG.
And going to catch up on a few questions. Ray asks, FOMO, what settings should I use on my QM8 75-inch? Can't find a calibrator. And if you did, he'd get mad at you because he will not want to calibrate the QM8. Simple, just put it in the movie mode and put it in warm. Warm movie mode gives you the most accurate as far as TCL is concerned. And motion, change it to taste, right? Adjust the motion so it doesn't have the stutter. If you notice the stutter, and if you're okay with a little bit of soap opera, that's what I have it on mine. And hopefully that works for you. And what's the best 83-inch OLED to date? Well, if we don't include the G4,
Behind me.
83-inch A80L right there. That's our favorite from 2023, and it's still above $4,000. The G4, though, will have MLA. If you're willing to wait until maybe April, May, right? Normally, LG launches. Now, the 83-inch may come out later, but ultimately, 83-inch G4 will be the first with the MLA. It'll be the brightest one out there if you need the brightness. If you don't, the 83-inch A80L is phenomenal. It's a great-looking TV, and our favorite now. Go ahead.
It's got the A90J. It also has, you know, what we failed to mention. I failed to mention. It has the A90J chassis. So in build quality, it is a Master Series, and it also has the extra speaker ports. So it is a Master Series. So it's a 1 in a million. There will not be another TV like that. So if that's a TV you want, I'd grab it.
And look, we already have someone reserving their 2024 model. Brian, I'm going to buy the Samsung 75-inch Q90D through Robert this year. I am super excited. That's a solid buy.
Awesome.
It's a good price.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, make sure you tell him you saw him here.
Love you. Thank you for this video. We are not worthy. Oh, we're not worthy of your attention. We love you guys. And by the way, 400 people in chat. Come on in.
Jeez, wow. I can't even see that.
Let's get it out there, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Getty has a great point, and I want to address this. I doubt the longevity of 4,000 nit TV. So if the entire screen is 4,000 nits, I would agree with you. That is a lot of overheat waiting to happen. But as Sony has mentioned to us at CES, 4,000 nit is peak no more than a 5% window. At a 5% window, I think they can disperse that heat, right? The heat sink will do its job. So don't worry about the 4,000 nits because it will never exceed 5% window, more likely less than a 5% window. But what are your thoughts on a 4,000 nits? Because would you hold back? Do you think it'll last any less? And just to let you guys all know, I always recommend an extended warranty. Doesn't matter what TV brand, whether it's flagship, if you're paying over $1,000, try to get an extended warranty if you can. They don't make them like they used to.
There's an irony. There's an irony to Getty, who has a Hisense, asking me about longevity.
wait. The story behind Getty. Here's a man that was about to pull the trigger on a Sony A95L. Next thing I know, he buys a 100-inch Hisense U8K and loves it.
Yeah.
Right? Watch the Super Bowl on it. And now he's like, I don't know, man. Longevity, you guys should be concerned.
Yeah, so every question we get about Hisense is, hey, man, I love that TV. What's the longevity? I can never say I know because you have to wait for it. But Getty's like, he has a 100-inch, basically prototype. It's the first U8K. And he's like, I wonder if this Sony's going to last.
I love it. What is it? People in glass houses throwing stones.
He's in a greenhouse. Like, hey. He's chilling in a lawn chair in a greenhouse.
And well, here's something. And David Wayland, he has now the 77-inch S89C. So amazing purchase if you're in the USA. It's $1,800. It's a 77-inch. It is the same TV as my editor's choice, the S90C at 77-inch, which is sold out now at Samsung.com and at Best Buy. So if you want it, you got to get the S89. But at $1,800, if that's your budget, this is the TV to get for 99.99999% of the people. I know there are Dolby Vision diehards out there. Oh, if it doesn't have Dolby Vision, I'm not going to look at it. This infinite contrast blows away any equivalent Dolby Vision TV. I'm sorry, right? So it's such a good TV. I don't know.
I'm just very happy for David, because David had gone through what I went through, where he had a million defective TVs. So the fact that you have something you're happy with, I'm just happy for you, David.
And Manny, I just ordered the Q70C. Should I cancel and get the 90C? It's a completely different TV. So the Q90C is Neo QLED, Mini LED, way better blooming control, way better contrast. Everything is better. Gaming may look very similar because, local dimming is a bit what it is, but the Q70C is entry-level QLED. The Q90C is literally their flagship because you can't get the Q95C. And if you're talking S90C, that's a whole technology jump.
Yeah.
So
well, what have we said in the last couple of years, Fama? We've said that for Samsung, the 85 is the sweet spot. 85, 90, 95. When you get below that, then I start looking at TCL and Hisense, because you're getting, because they really do fall off after the 80 or 85. They do drop in quality quite a bit, and they lose a ton of features. So I would say, if you can afford the 90, then I would definitely go for the 90, but you are going to pay more money for it.
Yeah. The Q70C is I don't count the Q60C. That should never be considered because that's just below entry. But the Q70C is their entry-level QLED at that level with full local dimming. The QN90 is their peak, right? It's a great TV if you're looking at LCD TVs.
Well, and the Q70 changes every year. 5 years ago, it was a very good number. And then the next year it drops down. So, it used to be where the 8 was, just below the flagship and really, really good. So they change them, but I don't trust them at the 70 level.
I don't either. A lot of corners are being cut.
Absolutely.
Zachary, great questions. When do you think Samsung will do an 83-inch and bigger size QD OLED? A lot of you are asking me this, and I have to be honest with you guys. The expense to tool it up, and this applies to LG W OLED as well. They have an 83-inch. They wanted to expand production to lower the price. They don't see the uptake on that. There's not enough people willing to spend the $4,000 to $6,000 on an 83-inch QD OLED. But Samsung also sells a 98-inch, an 85-inch at 2/3 the price, and they can make more money on margin that way. They would push that first, and they're seeing it because they offer both, right? They offer an 85-inch Neo QLED or QLED. They offer a 98-inch Neo QLED / QLED. Those they can sell for the same price and make more money. And so Samsung Electronics is telling Samsung Display, look, if you guys put money into investing and making 83-inch QD OLED,
you won't be your customer.
We're not going to push it hard. Yeah, we're not going to push it because the margin
no.
isn't there for our TVs, right? Because we can't sell it at 10,000. No one's going to buy it. But then we sell it at 6 or 5. Where's the margin? So
Yeah.
it's a hard place. It's a hard
Well,
place.
in FOMO, we talked about this when they develop 42 and 48 and they can sell that to anybody. Asus, they'll buy them. There's only one group buying an 83. That would be Samsung Electronics and Sony. And Sony, they're great at picking and leaving things, but now MLA, we thought that LG would be in the same boat, but LG already had MLA. So I think they knew they had to go 83, but it's not going to be, it's going to be a big seller because they'll be the only ones that have it, but that should have been last year and they would have cleaned house, but it might be a little too late for them this year, even though I think it's going to be the best TV of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it may come at a later date, but I don't feel optimistic. Hey, Leo. Hey, Leo.
What's up, Leo? Handsome.
Leo, 900C, man. He loves his 900C. At CES, did Samsung mention that 8K 900D will have 4K 240 hertz gaming? I did not ask that question specifically. I know Brian sometimes asks. I don't know. A lot of people at CES wrote in their articles that it will. We will be talking to Samsung soon directly about all their models, and we will get that directly from Samsung for you. And then
I don't see. Yeah, I mean, the first looks that we had, everybody with the TVs were very limited on what they could share, and their knowledge was limited. I asked about gaming because I was more curious, FOMO, about that, that processing AI upscaler, would that be part of gaming? And I think that's a definitive no. I don't think input lag wouldn't be amazing on it. But what are you going to do with 4K 240, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's.
What do you? We're having a hard time.
And he's right. I'm looking it up. Everyone is saying that 900D will support 240 hertz VRR gaming, and so basically, this
not at 4K. That'll be
1080p. exclusively for PC gamers. So that tiny population.
But who's rocking that? I mean, I'm guessing that'll be 1440p or 1080p. I just don't see 4K at 240. We're having a hard time at 4K at 120 on anything. So I mean, the 4090. So they might say that, but the fact that they struggled with their 144 hertz support, I highly doubt that's something they're going to be able to pull off. Is it a one connect box thing, FOMO? Come on, are we talking about the one connect box is going to support that? We're going to support 4K 240, so we'll see. It'd be nice. Look, I can hope.
Definitely. We will see. And well, let us know, Leo and anyone else, is 240 refresh something that would change your mind and move you towards buying a 900D? I mean, if it does, I doubt it though. I mean, I think if you're buying the 900D, you're already buying it for a reason, right? And it's not just because of that. But let me know. Would you use it?
Well, and with the 900D, this is going to be really interesting, guys, is we're fairly certain that Samsung is going to miss on the brightness race.
Okay, so let's talk about that, right? Samsung brightness race, they're focused on AI, and let's say they have the 240 hertz, right? AI, 240 hertz, VRR, 4K, right? They have all these things. Sony's focusing on separating their product with 4,000 nits, flagship, specular highlights. Which is more important for you as a consumer? If you had the money, right? Let's say you had 6,000 to spend. Go either way. Get yourself an 85-inch 900D with AI upscaling and better gaming features, or the Sony for a similar price, and the focus is on specular highlights, 4,000 nits, better movie cinema, long-term future-proof for 4,000 nit content coming out in the future. Where'd you go, Brian?
I mean, so that's with them. I mean, we talked with them and they did not mention that brightness actually was not a selling point for any of the Neo QLEDs or the 8K model. 8K typically are not as bright as the 4K ones due to the pixel density. Sony's shadow detail addiction makes them blast it. They don't care about the pixel density, so they go for as bright as they can. And they're aiming for 4, TCL aiming for 5, Hisense aiming for 10. I think Samsung will have that processing, but I think people are going to be upset if they don't have that 4,000 nits, and I don't think they're going to be looking to do that. Or we would have heard it.
Yes, I agree. Oh yeah, if it was bright, they would yell from the rooftops.
That would be the top thing they said.
Yep. Hey, Towers, welcome. Our friend with a bar in Buffalo. I cannot wait.
It's the bar in Buffalo. That should be the name of the bar. Bar in Buffalo.
Bar in Buffalo. The XR90 from Vizio Electronics went available. So, Terrace, will the XR90 be in your bar? I hope they sell a FOMO edition with fedora and white gloves to commemorate my hero. I will leave You know what? I might leave a pair of gloves with Robert so he can stick it in the box for you. I
We'll
will
sign
do
it.
that.
We'll sign
I
it
even
for
have
you.
a logo on my gloves, right? I have merch. I've just been too lazy to create an actual. Oh man, it's just so much work to have it warehoused and shipped. So it'll end up going out of my garage. So I'll bring a couple of gloves and leave it with Robert this
We'll
spring.
pass them
So
on
he
to
can send
M-Wave.
it to you. Love it. Thank you, Taurus, for supporting our good friend Robert. Sonia, what are the LED Sony TVs? So for 2023, everything anything that starts with an X are the LCD TV Sonys, right? Now, if you're talking mini LED, there's only one. That's the X95L from last year, the X95K from the year before, and the X93L is technically from the year before, but they repackaged it as the X93L. So X95K, X93L, and X95L are the only mini LED Sony TVs that you can buy right now. All the other X series TVs are LCD TVs without the mini LED. But let me tell you, the mini LED doesn't make a huge difference other than efficiency and brightness. It can get a little bit brighter. Your TV is a bit more efficient. The X90L is not mini LED, and it was able to keep up with easily the TCL QM8 and the U8K, both of which are mini LED. And I believe the X90L beats the Q7. That's not a mini LED. It beats the Hisense U7K and the U6K, both of which are mini LED. So Sony not having the mini LED on the X90L was not a big deal. Now, this year with the XR90 mini LED, its dimming zone control will separate it from the pack. And it's not because it's a mini LED TV per se, it's just its dimming zone control is that good. So hopefully that answers your question, Sonia. I know that's what I was asking. Hey, John, thank you for the super chat. Just can't wait for the reviews on the new sets coming out in 2024. So we will be the first to have them side by side. Value Electronics will be hosting. I'll fly there in the spring. We're looking at probably sometime in May, I hope, where we'll have the LG G4 next to the Samsung S95D with the matte finish next to the Samsung 900D. Let's see how AI upscaling 8K, can it beat an OLED infinite contrast? That will be our first side by side, and I think Classy will be there. He'll be calibrating us. So it's an informal shootout. I don't want to call it a shootout because who are the judges, right? It's us. But the reality is we're there to give you our impressions, real people. And then Brian's going to break all the TVs with his settings, right? We're going to go in there. All right, enough of the calibrations.
Enough of this crap, filmmaker crap. Let's see what these things can do.
Well, because the reality is, filmmaker mode will make them all look alike, right? If our calibrator friends did their job, literally, there should be no difference. And
they're identical.
You guys buy the TVs for the differences, and so we will put it in its most saturated, vibrant modes. The strengths, like why was this TV designed? So the 900D, Q900D 8K, it was designed for sports clarity. Is that motion clarity better than the G4 motion clarity now? How about the G4? Super bright, right? 3,000 nits. Is it now as bright as the 900D, right? So we're going to play a lot with the specs that are promising us improvements that exceed what was last year. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, I can't wait.
And gaming, of course, like we did last year. Brian's going to game on it and see which looks better in gaming.
I wish it's just it's tough that all these companies are realizing they want to release things differently. Where normally we'd be looking at TVs next month, maybe the middle of end of March. Now we're talking about April, May. I mean, that's the part that's really going to be tough for a lot of people.
You know, Jason has a really good point. I surely hope Best Buy carries the highest tier Sony LED this year, because they didn't sell the Sony X95L last year. That is correct. They only have the X93L, which is the X95K.
They have it. It's there. They have
X95L at Best Buy.
Yep.
Oh, you know what?
They do have it.
Let's see. Wait. Let me see. Let's see.
Or they had it. They had the 93L. Someone just told me they had the X95L. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking the X93.
They do. They didn't
have the QN95. That from Samsung they did not have. The X95L.
They just got it. You know what?
Well,
I think they just got it because
it wasn't there at launch.
Reviews.
Yeah, it wasn't there at launch. It's there now. So
yeah.
But you're right though, Jason. They should have it there. But we're seeing that a lot of times, even the stores, look at even Costco and those guys, they sell the flagships. They don't have them in store.
Yeah. And maybe later in the year. So maybe let's
Great
say the
TV.
boutique stores installers have it the first 4 months, to give them an edge, and then by fall or late fall it comes to Best Buy. So that's still possible as well. Yeah, good point. And here's another question: are we going to get the smaller size XR90?
Is that your jacket making that noise?
My jacket?
Is your jacket's making like the breakdancing? Is that your? You guys hear that? All right, that's not me. Go ahead. You're saying especially at the lower size. I hear like
X95L. X95L only had the 85-inch available in the USA.
In the US,
the rest of the world had it. So now my prediction is we're going to get it, right? But I could be wrong. Maybe
that would be nice. Yeah.
Well, actually, wait. So actually, let's talk about, can they compete? If the 65-inch XR90, the 65-inch XR90, if it ends up costing more, like a bit more than the G4 or the S95D, is that a hard recommendation to make, Brian? Let's say it costs $500 more.
It is, because as we talk to some people outside of us here in this room, most people don't even know what XR Clear is. So when the enthusiast people that really push numbers do not know what these features are. So what they're going to look at is a giant 85-inch Sony that costs X, and then they're going to see a $2,000 Hisense, or even a $1,000 FOMO X80K. It's going to be a very hard sell when these other prices are so low. So the problem is Sony's going to be selling something that is very niche. People aren't going to know about the dimming zones and 4,000 nits and a reference monitor. We spread that word. That's what's so great about what we do. But most people have no idea. So I would say it's going to be a hard sell. But it's going to be a hard sell for anybody selling TVs at a high price point. That's why OLEDs are getting absolutely killed right now. Look at FOMO and Costco. I was looking at, go check out my Costco video. As I went down to the cheaper TVs, they're like $100, $200. An OLED at that size, like $1,000. At 48, 55, people are just not. You have people in this chat right now that think $1,500 is too much for a TV. This thing costs $2,000. So I don't know. And
you buy a new phone every 18 months.
You buy it every 18 months. So I don't know where but my point is, we get into this phone, but now you know why TVs are a money loser for these manufacturers.
Right.
It's a money loser. They can't make money if the TVs cost $2,000 for Getty's is $2,000 for 100 inch. Thing weighs 300 pounds.
And speaking of our friends in chat, 500 people in chat. Click like, everyone.
Damn, 500. Wow.
And so SD wanted to let us know QN90C. He meant QN90D, right? So QN90D reviews are already out in Europe. Yeah. In a nutshell, not much different than last year. And this is what Brian and I noticed too at CES. They wouldn't tell us if it was the QN95D or the 90D, but we looked at it.
We predicted it.
There was no fanfare at all. It was just, here it is. And we asked about specs, so it made it special. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, that's an admission that pretty much is the same thing.
And SD, we called that on our CES coverage simply because there was no One Connect box anywhere in sight. And there was the new processor is strictly for the 8K model. So we knew that would be, unfortunately, it's not going to be on the QD OLEDs either, other than the matte finish. We don't see a big change other than the third generation panel. But the Neo QLEDs are going to be pretty similar to last year's.
So I want to address this comment because this is a good comment. Thank God for people like Classy and HD TV Test, Vincent, because I would have been pissed if I bought that Sony A95L with the lip syncing issues and some color problems in low lit scenes, right? So if you guys watch Classy's review, he goes specific over certain streaming content, and this is very specific to streaming, as well as Dolby Vision flag issues, which I know Sony is working on right now. So real quick, on Sony's side, Brian reached out to Sony, and Sony has told Brian specifically, we're working on Dolby Vision. We know the issues. We've seen the reviews. It's on its way. So the A95L is still a work in process. Now, lip syncing issue, I believe at some point it will be fixed, but you buy the TV as it is. The lip syncing, I think, is something that affects people if you have the wrong gear attached to it, or the right gear, but it's just Sony's not doing it well. But ultimately, most people watching the A95L will love it. But Jason Sims and enthusiasts who are, I would call you the 0.1%er, myself, Brian, Classy, we nitpick these TVs to death. And oftentimes we lose the forest for the trees in a sense that I would not recommend the A95L because of that alone, but rather I would recommend the S90C because the A95L is not twice as good.
Yeah.
Given the price difference, I could not recommend the A95L. Now, if you like Sony, this is your budget. I highly recommend it because it's the Sony colors out of the box. It's solid. I love the XR Clear, everything it does. And I personally, I'm watching streaming it all the time. I don't notice those issues because when I'm watching, I don't freeze frame because Brian and I and Classy, our job is to find these things and point it out because we're trying to separate the best of the best. But if I watch the G3 against the A95L against the S90C, you guys could not tell the difference unless I put it in scenes I know. And those scenes, half of you are like, where did this come from, right? You know, we use Spears and Munsell. I mean, I pull out just random scenes from Netflix where I know they have trouble. So just for context, for a lot of people watching who aren't that 0.1%er that beat their TV up to find what is the worst about their TV, this may not be an issue. But
and that's why, that's why the presets are important because each one handles their presets differently. So if we're all in filmmaker mode or the most accurate and they're calibrated, they look the same. But if you want to see what the standard mode is on one versus the other, then you'll start noticing the differences.
Yeah. So every year we talk about 8K, and Getty brings up a good point. Why can't there be more 8K content being produced? Okay, so let's say 3 years ago when 8K was introduced to TVs, right? Definitely there was no 8K content because 8K cameras are super expensive. This year, 8K cameras are not super expensive. The Sony Burano is an 8K Venice Lite. That's about $25,000. It's coming out in the spring. The new Red Raptor X is 8K 120. That's about $29,000. Now, these are relatively affordable for indie filmmakers. That's why it's like, wow, these are legit 8K cameras. Then 3 or 4 years ago, processing 8K was a nightmare. Today, 4 years later, we have the GPUs to do it. We have the CPUs to do it. Storage has dropped in price. So I do believe that 8K content could be produced in the near future now that prices have dropped and the studios might be willing to invest. But then now the issue is they're not going to make content if the TVs aren't there. So now the TV makers have stopped. Like, you know what? No one wants 8K. So at the end of the day, it's always the chicken, the egg. If there is no interest in buying 8K TVs, the studios are like, we're not going to make 8K content because it costs a lot more. Now, at some point, 8K content, the difference between producing 8K and 4K is so minimal. They'll just produce 8K because it's an extra 10% cost, let's say, right? That's fine. But right now, that difference still isn't quite there yet, but we're going to get there. And once we get there where 8K content production is within 10 to 15% of a 4K workflow, that's when they'll start producing it. And then the TVs will come at that point. So, but currently it's just expense from capture to storage to editing to delivery. And then you can't package it. You can't stream it, right? Oh, I forgot about the whole packaging. Let's say you do have the content. How do you deliver it? So the current codecs, we're not quite there yet because imagine if everyone started to try to stream 8K. If you thought your Netflix delivery was a problem, it's going to be even more of a problem. So delivery is the last step. Now that last mile is getting you that 8K delivery because the Blu-ray disc cannot store 8K. So yeah, once we solve the codec, and I know you got the VVC and you got the different codecs, but if everyone starts to download 8K, right, they upgrade their package, that's still going to create some bottlenecks in the delivery. But good question, Getty. Almost.
Well, on top of that, think about when we did our 8K stream last year, and it was the Lord of the Rings, and you were doing the demo. So FOMO does the demo. He's like, it was like 30 seconds. He goes, it looks pretty good. I go, can you run it back? He goes, apparently I can't run it back because you can't rewind and fast forward in it because the stream is so massive. So you're like, you're telling me I'm trading in the resolution. Honey, go back to that. I can't. Can you pause it? Can't do it. It's on it. So think about giving up rewind and fast forward in 2025.
Yep.
And then FOMO 2026. You know what we have in 2026? We have fast forward back. Rewind? Nope. 2027. We're getting that back.
Yep. Hey, Zim, this is such a good question. When is the Sony event, right? The TV launch, whatever. So I can't share anything with you. I can't even share with you that I cannot share it with you. Let's just
Me,
leave it at
me
that.
neither.
I cannot even share that I know there's something to share.
So all we can say is
Hopefully.
yes. We can say
Hopefully-
yes.
Yes, there's a launch coming.
Yes.
Yes, there's an event. All right. You guys are awesome.
It was so vague. We're honest about everything else. Like, so when is the Sony thing? I'm sorry, what? About what?
What?
Huh?
What?
Like Chappelle. Huh?
Sorry?
What?
What?
Huh? What?
This stream is too rich for my wallet. Hammer.
Joe, we cover
is
cover
being
everything,
acquired
baby.
by Walmart, man. Vizio is
man.
going to be acquired by Walmart. That means more affordable. I don't want to say better TVs, more affordable TVs for you. So let's do a quick favor for those whose budget is $600. The Hisense U7K, the TCL Q7, you're done. There is not a better TV for under $700, like 55-inch, 65-inch, $700, Q7, U7K. Choose your poison. They're both great at that price.
Absolutely.
And for under 1,000, 75 inches, right? I mean, these TVs
That is absurd.
so good. Absurd.
I know.
They're
But
better than
again-
any TV made 3 or 4 years ago.
But guys, we'll go back to this because I know I love bringing Vizio up to FOMO. 2016 Vizio P series. Everybody loved that TV. You know why? Because it was 75 inches, and FOMO, it was the valuable price. It was the value-based price of $4,000. So that Vizio P series in 2016, everybody loved it. Katzenmeyer, Caleb, because it was $4,000. Think about that for a second. It was $4,000. And they're like, what a bargain. And here we are like, wait a second, I want $1,000. Like they want, would you say for free? How about the price of on the house? I'll take it.
Just keep it connected to the internet. As long as you keep it connected to the internet.
Exactly. That camera's following you around. Wait a minute. Why?
Yep. Hey, Diab, the prediction of sales of 8K TVs going up was 3 years ago. Today, like the most current prediction is that it'll go up in 2030. So they're pushing it out to 2030 to see this.
Which is, you know, what's funny. We really were surprised, right? FOMO, both of us sat there as we walked through Samsung. And again, FOMO's video of him running around is awesome. But we do walk through and we were kind of, that's why we do these videos. We're kind of saying, like, what do you think's going to be? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to double down on this? We both thought QD OLED. We both thought this and that. And they're like, we're really doubling down now on this. And they showed us the processor. And it was like 8K. And him and I both looked at each other like, 8K. So is this processor going to be anything else? Nope. They're like,
Nope.
I mean, it was just kind of a, okay. So FOMO, what do you think about that? Is it a doubling down that they've made the commitment?
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying if there's no 8K content, we're going to make it. So everything is going to be, so forget about director's intent is gone. You know, Columbo at 8K. It's not, I know you guys think it's upscaling to 8K. It's not that. It's legitimately changing the image.
Yep.
It's not upscaling. I mean, they're having processing.
What a perfect segue to Flipper's question, because this is out of the big 3 brands, Sony, LG, Samsung, which brands of OLED looks most three-dimensional? So when you say three-dimensional, you're saying gives you the most dynamic range. Well, the specular highlights are a little bit brighter than they should be, because all 3 TVs, if calibrated to accuracy, they should be identical. One should not be more three-dimensional.
Yeah, they look flat.
Yes. But the Sony with the XR Clear pops a little bit more. And we've all seen it. We saw it in the shootout. The judges saw it. Some marked the Sony up for it. Some marked them down because it was not as accurate as it could be. But ultimately, the Sony does look the most three-dimensional because they're willing to raise that brightness just a little bit on the specular highlights, enough for it to be visible, but not so much like, wait, something's wrong. But we all noticed it. So it would be the Sony A95L. It doesn't mean that the G3 can't, in a firmware update, fix that, by the way. But it's just the XR Clear is designed specifically to find certain specular highlights, whether it's skin tones or shiny car chrome, and they will select which ones to make it a little bit brighter, and it makes it more appealing. So consistently, we have found the A95L to be that three-dimensional TV. But if you want pure accuracy to the filmmaker's intent, never ask which looks most three-dimensional, because now you're talking accuracy. But then to you, Brian, is it important to be fitting with creator's intent if you're willing to play with that fast and
I'm
loose brightness, three dimensional.
I'm loose with that. I mean, I like accuracy to a degree, but I don't believe at all on being stuck to it. I mean, I've been with many of these TVs. The reference monitor is awesome. But there's got to be, for me, it's all about flexibility. I want things to be a bit more vibrant. I want things to be how I want them. Like very heavy grain structure in a lot of these movies I don't love. So I'm flexible. I'm not also turn on soap opera effect and do all this crazy stuff. I'm just into something a little bit more poppy.
Patrick has a really good question. It relates to prioritizing features and specs. Do you think the Sony XR processor, the XR Clear, is noticeable and worth the extra money for normal consumers in comparison to competitors that don't have it, right? Samsung, LG, Hisense, and so forth. Or if it's only visible for expert reviewers. So this goes to a larger question, Patrick, which is, given a fixed budget, right? You don't have all the money in the world, and you were to select certain features within that budget, what would you prioritize? I would always prioritize, first, how old is your TV? If your TV is an older LCD TV, I would prioritize size, the best size that fits where you want, that maximum size you need. Then OLED. Can you make that size an OLED? That jump from an LCD to a larger TV that's OLED, just infinite contrast. Size and infinite contrast makes all the difference in the world. Next comes, okay, I want that HDR pop. Now you can get the brighter OLED. That's one way to go. Or you can go even larger with an LCD Mini LED and go brighter spectral highlights, but lose the infinite contrast. Both those directions is visible that the common consumer can get. But then what's your content? If your content is streaming, sports, news, just basic stuff, go with the OLED because you don't need that extra brightness, but you will enjoy the infinite contrast on all your content. And that's where I would go, right? And I like that the uniformity, that's something that common consumers, everyday consumers will see. If it's bad uniformity on LCD TV, you're going to see it in hockey or in the sky. And definitely if you do any kind of gaming, the OLED is just lower latency. It looks better in game mode generally. So XR Clear is close to the bottom once you have those things settled on, because you got size, you got the technology, whether it's brightness, mini LED, or infinite contrast OLED. And then at the bottom, now, should I go with XR Clear? Should I go with MLA? We can start talking about that. What are your thoughts about that, bro? What features do you prioritize?
Well, for me, XR Clear is number one, because many of you want to know, but all I hear was upscaling. How's upscaling? How's upscaling? How's upscaling? And to me, they're best in the business. So if that's your priority, that's where Hisense and T-Cell get hurt, is they have the bright, they look fantastic in 4K HDR, a lot of impact. And then you put on something that's a little muddy and maybe not a cutting edge film. And that's when you guys get upset. You're like, wait a second, this thing doesn't look as good. So that's where, to me, it's at the top. Something like XR Clear, just like I think next year's G4 is going to be at the top because they're prioritizing processing. And also the 900D 8K, they're prioritizing processing, basically saying, hey, look, we'll make it look good. So I think the brightness and things of that nature, if it's not useful, should be at the bottom of the list. To your point, reflection handling, top of the list, if you're going to be in a bright room. So here we are flip-flopping.
That's what we do. Hey, Stan.
That's a great comment, by the way. Blink 3 times.
Blink 3 times if Sony Mini LEDs are coming for July. You know who could blink 3 times right now? That would be Robert. So Robert, if he's blinking 3 times, you'll know.
Oh, I thought he was making a joke about the red lights blinking. But yeah, I thought it was red blinking lights. Maybe I'm wrong.
That just means your TV doesn't work.
it means you're on a hard reset, actually. Yeah, we actually don't know. So
yeah, we won't know for a bit, but so everyone knows Sony has their own launch, right? What you don't know is when that launch will be. But once the launch is official and all embargoes are lifted, you might not even get a release date, by the way, but at least you'll get prices and so forth. The retailers, probably more than us, retailers like Robert Zone would know when he gets it, and he cannot share that. So there are many layers of knowledge, right? They're separating the knowledge base here and there.
Yeah.
So it's just something to keep in mind.
So what was cool though, FOMO, is we had access to the Black Box event, and as FOMO and I are walking, we actually saw some guys walking out. We saw ratings there, which I never shared that picture. We hung out with ratings. We met those guys, And as we're walking back, I saw a little flag over there that said XR meeting. And I was like, wonder what's over there.
What's over
And
there?
and that was the dealer area where those very specific dealers are able to see. The lineup is actually physically there, not pictures of it. It's physically there. Man, I was like, so yeah, that's very tight-lipped.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to know that because we're on camera way too often to be able to.
They'll hunt you down. They know where you got the information. They'll
Absolutely.
hunt you down. Hey, damn good question. What is mini LED versus micro LED? So the way reviewers today describe it, mini LED TVs are TVs that are LCD TVs with a mini LED backlight that helps control. It adds to the contrast. It makes it brighter. Micro LED is individual RGB pixels consisting of micro LED. On a mini LED TV, the way we're describing it, it's an LCD TV where the mini LED is just part of the backlight, right? Technically, mini LED and micro LED is the same thing. It's just the LED is smaller on a micro LED. So the first generation wall from Samsung are technically mini LED TVs, but now the confusion is such that when we say mini LED TV, we actually mean it's just a backlight technology being used. It's more expensive than a basic LCD TV. That's all.
Well, FOMO, we actually saw the micro LED. Remember, it was like sand. Wasn't that? Remember they had it in a test tube, not a test tube. They had it in a little thing, and they had. It was like sand.
Yes,
he's like,
pixel.
He goes, hey, this is a 75-inch. We're like, really? So I mean, it's really amazing. It's incredible. We're not gonna see it for a long time, but it's incredible.
I want to address this question. It's a great question, Asaf. Start the FOMO. How do I watch DTS audio on Blu-ray on Samsung TVs that don't support DTS audio? So if you plug your Blu-ray directly to your TV, right, and the TV doesn't decode it or whatever. So first of all, if your TV is decoding DTS, and then from the TV, I'm assuming you're using eARC to send it to your soundbar. Your soundbar doesn't do a great job decoding anyway. And so to me, it's a moot point. Now, if you have a Blu-ray and you want to hear DTS properly, you should send it to your AVR. Your AVR will then fully decode DTS. Having your TV be the intermediary in good multi-channel audio, it doesn't make any sense because the TV is then connected to a soundbar. And then the soundbar will do its own upmixing, right? Yeah. So Asaf, if you have a dedicated home theater, you shouldn't be connecting that Blu-ray audio using the TV as an intermediary. Connect directly to your AVR or processor, and then from there connect it to the TV. Then your AVR is handling your audio. So hopefully that helps clear things. Because if you're using a soundbar, it all sounds the same. It's a subwoofer. That's what counts. Just get a subwoofer, get a multi-channel around you, soundbar. It's all going to sound great. I've heard so many variations, and they all sound so similar. All right. Oh, so many great questions. Oh, let's see which to do. Now that the S90C is sold out, actually, you know what? Let me throw in this one. We're going to talk about this next. There are some questioners to Sony's OLED dreams, but let's hit this. Hey, Getty, now that the S90C is sold out, we're talking 77-inch S90C. The 55 and 65 is still available. There will be no chance the S90D will have a mix of second gen and third gen, right? Correct? That is correct. So the S90D in the 77-inch will likely be all third gen. Now, 55 and 65, and it may even be a mix of WOLED, by the way. I didn't even mention that. We don't know what TVs will have WOLED because Samsung bought a contract for millions of WOLED for LG Display. Unclear where these WOLEDs will go. We know the 42 and 48-inch and 83 are definitely WOLED, but will there be a mix in the 55, 65, and 77? We won't know until we talk to Samsung, and then we'll find out. So yeah, that's crazy.
Well, the only one I saw sold out was the 77 is the one that I saw that was sold out.
Yeah. Right now only the 77 sold out, but the 89C is still available. Brian, here's a question for you though. WOLED. Do you think 2024 Sony OLED is going to have MLA, or will they still run without it? I think they should, but what Sony will do are two different things. What does your insight tell you?
I mean, That would be amazing, but then I think you're conflicting their QD OLED flagship with another flagship.
Right.
So you can't
Because
say like
that would be the latest MLA, and suddenly it's
yeah.
competing.
So you're gonna say, hey,
with-
look, I have an A95L capable of 2000 nits, but I do have this other A85L or 80Q. It's got MLA. It does like 3000. You're like, what? So but that's why I think we're not seeing. Did you bring up why we're not seeing a Z9 series, a Z9K series? We talk about that at all? The AK
at the
Sony.
beginning, it's just at the beginning that they kind of wanted to focus on the mini LED 4K flagship this year.
So the reason I think to that answer is I can't see releasing like a Z9K, for instance, if it's not this new prototype. I also can't see giving a technology like MLA to a step down OLED that's going to be better than their Master Series. And if that thing has new MLA and it's a new panel, it's 3000 nits, it's going to beat the A95. It doesn't make sense. So unless they do an 85, it just would be, and I'm sure it's expensive to lease that and everything else. So I think it'll be tough.
SB has been sharing his comments. He's been watching our older live stream. He saw the one where we saw the S95B, the first.
Oh, that's do you look at my thumbnail? Like
plastic.
I actually have in that one I have the phone. Our audio is bad, so I'm literally talking to FOMO on my phone, I think. And you're walking around the room, and we watched that TV take the A90J outside and smack the hell out of it. I mean, we're like, is that? I mean, it was accurate. It was bright. It was nerfed.
Hey, Filet, when is the TV shootout 2024 going to be? So if you're talking about the
shootout, not living in the moment, the TV's even come out yet. It's tomorrow.
So we have two comparisons: the actual shootout where all the flagships are available, including LCD flagship and the OLED. That's a moving target because we really don't know when the official release of some of these TVs are, but we are anticipating July sometime, maybe late July, early August.
So we're thinking July or November. Playing there somewhere.
If you want Sony to be there.
So either we'll be really tan on camera or we'll be pale and full of turkey. We'll be bloated. Right now we're pale as hell.
But we will have an early preview shootout, if you want to call it that, in May. G4 versus the S95D versus the 900D, right? We rarely have comparisons where we mix in an 8K flagship, and we do that in the spring for fun. So you'll get a semblance, and it's early. So I have to remind everyone, this is early in the firmware. So what we see in the spring may not be what you see later in the year.
Yeah.
Like I remember the 900C last year was just, it was beaten handedly by the S95C. We're like, wait, why would I get a 900C when I get the S95C?
We didn't even, it's funny. What's funny is we actually didn't even film it. And I remember too, FOMO, why we didn't film it was its filmmaker mode had an issue. If you remember, it was having a hard time. So we did not want to put it out there and have it get beat down by, without it being, updated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Double R, I'll tell him. And I'm sure he'll just run down to the factory floor and rip it out. Like, how do you think this works?
Double R has a great super chat request. And because,
hold on a second.
Brian, we are connected.
Double R, put $5 down. So yeah. Go downstairs. Yeah, tell Pablo. Yeah, pull the camera out. Yeah, pull the camera out. You're good, bro. Thank you.
That would explain why the A95L is being held back, right? So, FOMO Brian Robert, please advise the Sony rep Rob Brennan to remove the camera on its Master Series to supplement the added cost of the HDMI 2.1. So let me tell you this.
Oh, he is paying attention. He knows about the added cost of the second processor, a second CPU. Go ahead.
And that's how much it costs. That the second one
doesn't quite work like that.
That it's cheaper to give you a camera. As a matter of fact, he might just give you a jacket and a logo cap.
So Double R wants a salad bar. Look, take it. You hold that camera. I'll take one more HDMI. No, I'll give me three. I'm just teasing you, Double R. It doesn't quite work like that. I don't know what the fascination is with the camera, but Double R, I think the funny thing is I remember when Robert Zone was telling me about the camera. It was really during the shutdown about a lot of zooming. And it's like, this camera's awesome. So Double R, think about this. You're like, I have my 75-inch on the wall. and the camera's literally following you wherever you go. You're thinking to yourself, I don't know, do I want that? Do I really need that? So FOMO, take the camera with that and then add Samsung's where it takes what you're playing on your phone and puts it on the TV for you.
Better. Oh,
no, it takes it out of your phone. So you're watching something inappropriate. You're naked. The camera's filming you. It's following you around the room.
This Double R, look what you've done. This stream has gone south so quickly. The camera, we're taking off our clothes, got AI generative science happening.
So the camera's focused on you. Double R, I mean, we've talked about it. I'm just teasing you. I don't. It doesn't quite work that way. We know why the HDMI 2.1, why there's only two. LG and Samsung developed their own chipset, so they're able to prioritize that. The other manufacturers would need a whole nother chip for HDMI 2.1 to have 4 of them. That cost is then passed on to you, and that's the way they figure it. They basically say,
I can see it. They have a sticker. Blame it on Double R. It's
Double R.
It's a Double R tax.
But when they have this conversation, that's how they have it. They basically say, everybody in a room, how big a deal is this? If we charge $200, and it wouldn't be $20 more, it'd be $200 or $300 more. You guys already don't like the Sony tax. Did you imagine the majority of you are going to go, nah, I'm good, and you're not going to buy it. So that's why.
Yeah, and remember, so this is. If you didn't like the camera,
I remember that was the first bias lighting.
Q TV with a backlight, right?
Yeah, bias lighting.
I
green. It was all green.
Right. So I have the Govee on the G3. I have it on. I have it off, and ultimately, for me, it's a non-issue. It didn't matter if it was on or off. Really, it was interesting, and it doesn't make the TV look bigger. I think it's great for the kids' room to give it more color, but the reality is, I didn't find it to be good or bad. But I wouldn't pay extra for it. That's for sure.
Well, remember, commercials were like soccer. It was green. This is you know what the Philips backlight that came out back in the day. They were the first to have. It was bias lighting. That was like 2000 something.
So I wanted to ask some clarity, SB. It seems like TVs were launched way earlier last year. They were accidentally leaked way earlier last year.
They were in FOMO's garage. You know, they were though. When did you come down and we did the G3 and the S95?
It was April. It was April, late April, right? Mid-April, late April. I thought
it was earlier than that.
Look at the stream date. I think, you know what? I have to look at the stream date, but
I thought it was earlier than that.
Well, I got the S95C earlier.
You got the G3
the Samsung S95C, because the S95C was accidentally sold to me by Samsung. They didn't intend it to. I mean, the person that forgot to disable the add to cart button. The 1 hour it was available, I added to my cart and had it shipped. And then they took it off. And then I called Samsung. I go, this TV is coming. Did you guys know that it's being released right now? And they're like, no, it's not being released. I go, it's on its way. They're like, what? And so even the Samsung people didn't know that I bought it from their site. So last year, early releases were unintentional. And same with Sony, right? I got the Sony earlier. It was unintentional. And I think that happened with the S89B. S95.
But I love how the A95L classy was like, hey, it's there. FOMO calls me. Hey, it's there. Where are you? I'm driving there right now. What are you doing in an hour? And Sony was like, what do you mean he has it? It's still in the oven. Nope, it's in the back of his car and in his house.
And finally, we're going to have a comparison in the spring.
Yeah.
In May. So we'll have that early for you guys. But just know that the firmware isn't fully baked. So we'll see. It's for fun. Don't take it too seriously because firmware does require work on all TVs.
Well, and we all do after that. I mean, whether it's Classy or me or KG, we all end up doing our separate comparisons when the TVs are released fully. So you'll have a ton of content. We'll follow it all the way through.
Absolutely. And Dex, so this is an interesting take. Sony's processing is top notch, but the motion is not. So it depends on what motion. So when we say motion, it's just all over the place. For me, motion is very specific. I do not like stutter. I will tolerate a little bit of soap opera. Some people really like motion interpolation, soap opera. Sony does not do that well. If you love smooth soap opera, on the Sony, there may be a little bit of artifact if you really heighten that smoothing up.
If you max it and you want
max it, right? So Samsung is designed for that, right? I mean, they really love to make that's what they do. That's why their AI upscaled motion is so good. I mean, they've been working on that smooth soap opera longer than anybody else. Sony wants you to get the cinema motion. So they do cinema motion better than anyone else, which means reducing the stutter without introducing soap or any artifacts. And that depends on you, right? So young people like Samsung, because they want soap opera, apparently. And when I say young people, like
TCL
right?
too.
Yeah, TCL, very smooth. So, and TCL is great too, right? Very few artifacts, Hisense as well, very smooth. But when it comes to barely noticeable stutter without any soap at all, Sony does it best. So people who are sensitive to motion interpolation, that soap opera, like Classy, he's hypersensitive to that. He could only see it on anything but a Sony, and LG, I think, is doing a good job right now. So I think LG does the best of compromising both. They have good cinema motion and they have good motion interpolation algorithms for that. Samsung does that really well, but their cinema motion, needs a little work. So definitely it depends on where you're coming from. But Brian, do you have a position on motion? Like, what kind of motion do you like?
I mean, they all handle it differently. As you said, it's a matter of it being different. I'm not super sensitive to that kind of. I think that Sony being panned for motion is overblown to me. I don't think it's a huge big deal. So it's just not something I think is terrible. But then again, I don't really like soap opera effect heavy. So like you said, some of the manufacturers are better at it than that. To me, it's not a non-issue.
Quick PSA, public service announcement. Friendless in the Philippines while living in Costco, Seattle, is letting us know the 77-inch S90C is available online locally for $22.99. So
awesome.
It's not a deal
here
per se, but you know what? It's available. And
it's been gone here. It's gone here. It's gone in Carolina. I mean, it's gone
in Southern California. If you want the S90C. Now, the S89C is a good alternative, by the way. And that one is still $1,800 at Best Buy if it's available near you. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for that, Friendless. And thank you for the super chat, Nicholas Haninen. FOMO, I ordered the 83-inch S90C for $2,500. That's such a good price. But I'm already getting FOMO about not getting the 98-inch TCL. And that's about $2,000, my friends.
That's been happening a lot.
For $2,000. Do I bail on the Samsung or go bigger for my home theater? This is so tough because I do like the 83-inch OLED, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what, Brian? While I think about this, do you have an instant reaction for Nicholas? Because he can return it.
So, Nicholas, our question will always be, what are you coming from? You're coming from a 77-inch 83, might not be a big jump. I think if you're coming from a 65-inch 83 will be fine. The jump from, say, 65 all the way to 98 is going to be and you guys don't want to hear this, a large TV can be a very muddy experience. If you're too close or that TV, are you coming from a 65?
A dedicated home theater. So let's say he's 9-10 feet away.
So you're 9-10 feet away, and that seating distance is fine for that size. But again, if you're coming from a very small TV, you're talking about a TCL 98-inch. Which model is 98? The S4?
They have that. Yeah. They have the.
The S4. I would not. If you're talking about an 83-inch OLED with infinite contrast and micro contrast,
it's S5. That's what they call it.
Yeah. So the S5. I mean, it's just very hard to go there. That picture quality. I mean, if it's a QM8, maybe you're right, FOMO. I mean, it's hard.
It's edge lit. So now
no bueno for me.
Let me put this up real quick so you guys can see what we're talking about here. It's actually a very good question, only because I'll tell you why in a second here.
Well, if it's edge lit and you have black bars, and you don't find those distracting, it would be no bueno for me.
So this is why I like this TV. You know me and the wisdom of the crowds. 148 people bought this TV. And you know how whiny people can be. They will complain if the TV is not delivered correctly and blame it on the brand. But in this case, all 148 on average is 4.8. That's very impressive. Rarely, when you have that many people buy a TV, is the consensus 4.8. And we're going to leave aside, I know you guys are cynical. Oh, how many of that was paid, right? If you average it across all the other models, not all of them are this high when it's above 100 reviews. And so I'm just going to use that as a way, a heuristic, so to speak. If it's over 100, I think it helps dilute any paid reviews if they exist. So 4.8 to me is impressive. So what it tells me is consistency across the board. This is peak edge lit technology, meaning we've had edge lit for years now, and TCL has found a way to make edge lit look more than acceptable. And at the 98-inch size, this is what most people are happy with. And as a comparison, my parents have a Crystal series Samsung before I replaced it with the QN900B, which they still complain about. Why'd you take away our Crystal TV? That was the best TV ever. I was like, you had a green line down the middle, but the
it's over by the milk section.
So they love their edge-lit TV, right?
Of course,
and here it is.
They know how to use it.
They know how to use it. The people who are coming from a worse edge-lit TV, worse meaning, it's 5 years old, upgrading to this, solid. So back to Nicholas. If you're coming, first of all, if you haven't opened the S90C, I guess you just ordered it. The minute you see OLED, you will never go back. Brian and I feel the same. That infinite contrast, you are now stuck with OLED unless you're willing to compartmentalize. OLED is for my gaming, and then for this home theater, I am willing to go down on contrast for the size, and you're okay with that. But do not open the S90C if you want the 98-inch size. I like the size. If you're coming from I'm going to use Vizio, my whipping boy, a 5-year-old Vizio, 6-year-old Vizio, because now the Walmart's trying to acquire Vizio. It's open season. You're coming from a 5-6-year-old Vizio, right? This is a phenomenal upgrade in both image quality, everything.
Of course.
Image quality, reliability, you name it.
Well, the reason why we say OLED, not just the infinite contrast, FOMO, is no one's talking about the black bars anymore. That is still something that people are going to look at. If those things are purple or they're lit up at all, you guys are going to lose your mind. And having black bars on a 98-inch TV, those things are like this.
Yeah.
They're not like this. Like at home, they're like this. So keep in mind, and I know we talk about this, and those reviews too, FOMO, someone mentioned in the comments, if you're not paying a lot, expectations aren't high. So if you buy a TV like this for $2,000, the thing turns on, it's bright, they're happy. So I can see the reviews being great.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Enthusiasts aren't buying it.
Now,
so that's the best.
$2,000 though. Yeah, so that in context, if you're coming from a $500 budget, the Vizio man, when you buy $2,000, you're expecting white glove treatment, my friends.
Not at 98 inches, man. I mean, they're like, wait, is this thing 98 inches?
I'm telling you, when people are paying $2,000, it's $2,000, right?
This year is going to be rough, man. This year is going to be. I can't wait this year because we're going to have these TVs released at $6,000. People are like, I'm not looking at that piece of crap. It's $6,000.
Look, I love that there's delivery and installation. By the way, free delivery.
They're losing a fortune.
They're losing money on the installation. So
they cost $500 to ship.
Dude,
by the way,
installation. It's at least 2 to 3 man, right? Get yourself a good Sanus wall mount. Throw it in there. They're going to install everything. That whole project alone is $500. And this is done by Best Buy Geek Squad, so it's fully insured. Anyone else,
shipping? The shipping,
TV, they're going to run out your door. You never see them again. These people, they'll just replace the TV. So, yeah.
So my buddy Paul just jumped in the chat. Shout out to Paul. Paul does help me like bring some of these TVs to and fro. We're put 83-inch TVs in his truck. Where are we putting 100-inch? Like, where are you putting that?
Best Buy. Best Buy will take away the 100-inch TV and put it in their truck. That's
like
right.
I'm buying a refrigerator. Come get this TV out of here.
I'm not normally I work with Best Buy. I got affiliate links, but they don't pay me to. I don't get paid to say, "Hey, Best Buy is great," but rather, I know a good deal when I see one. Right? It's a good deal. Like when Geek Squad was offering all these freebies, I told everyone to get it. $99 a year, all this free installation. They canceled that after 2 years. It was too good of a deal. I got free calibration for 3 years from Best Buy. I know they only calibrated SDR, but it was like free calibration with every TV, like $99. It was ridiculous, right? When it's a good deal, you run with it, and that's a good deal. The installation, what a good deal that is.
I remember the best. Hold on. Remember the Best Buy had the calibration screens next to each other? It was like calibrated, uncalibrated, and every time I'd stand there, someone's like, "I don't like the calibrated one." They're like, "I like that one better."
I'm paying money for what? I remember it was $49 to calibrate a TV back when I started my channel.
Wow.
I wrote, credit card, 250. I got 5 TVs. Spend the day here. Like, oh my God, right?
Yeah, nice.
I mean, they don't do that anymore. So when it's a good deal and it's free delivery and installation on a 98, 100, 110 inch, whatever,
take
you got to
away.
run with
Heck
it.
yeah.
You got to take it away. I mean,
I
ended
think
up
they'll
at
change, but I
15
think they're
inch
going to change that FOMO. They're going to change that. If
Oh,
these
they will.
TVs catch on at these sizes, they will change it.
They will.
So
They
enjoy
will.
it while you can.
Hey, Jesse, thanks for that super
What's
chat.
Jesse?
Which 2024 TVs are my most, and Brian's most anticipated wanting to review? Like, what do I most want to review? The new XR90, X95, U8, whatever. Okay, I'll start. I really want to review the 110-inch UX or the 115-inch QM8. I really do. Because I really want to see, when I sit up close, is motion worse because it's brighter? I mean, does that brightness translate to real content? Because both TVs are over 4,000 nits. The 110 is 10,000 nits. The QM8 is 5,000 nits, right? And to me, this is just groundbreaking because both those TVs will single-handedly transform the projector market. I mean, the projector market could die overnight. In 1 year, it will put the entire ultra short throw projector out of business, as well as long throw, because a lot of long throw users are buying that 110-inch size for their screen, right? So this is just, to me, it's just because I know how 65, 77-inch looks. It doesn't get much better than OLED. Minor, the MLA 3000 nit, but at 110-inch, can they fix the processing? Because motion at 110-inch and bright, it's very noticeable. Image processing has to be spot on. This is why I returned the Vision Pro. That motion was just at 100 feet and the motion is off. I can't get away. I'm surrounded by bad motion. I was like, oh my God, the stutter is overwhelming. And that's the drawback. I love immersion, but when you're immersed in bad motion, it kills you. So after watching my third movie where I could not adjust that stutter on the Vision Pro, I said, you know what? I can't recommend something that I will not watch myself. So,
But
that's
I
why I told the
your
guys at Apple. I told them, you guys got to fix the motion, or give me a setting to put it on soap opera.
Yeah. But I love your coverage of that because you don't bring anything back. I mean,
No,
you called me on the way to the store and you're like, I'm bringing it back. I'm like, really? But they're like, the fact is, by the time they do dedicated content for it, you'll be looking at the Vision Pro 2
or 3.
And there's no point of it sitting on the shelf getting dusty. You're like, dude, I can already tell you now, but how can I recommend this if after the first few demos, you don't play those? We talked about that when we first reviewed it. You're reviewing it. Even like Quest had those first couple demos that were, you're like, oh my God, if it never gets better than that, then you can't have them anymore. So I thought
the native demos were great. If all the movies converted to Vision Pro 3D
they'll never do
was similar to native, great, but it wasn't, and that was the issue. So, but Brian,
and they never will.
What's your most anticipated? If you were to pick one TV to review this year, what would it be?
My favorite. So my most, I can't give you one, but I would say it's got to be a tie.
Okay.
For different FOMO, right? The G4 to me is going to be the best overall TV. That's the one I want to see, but it's going to be more the same.
What size?
83. It'll be 83. Okay. But that'll be for brightness. I want to see HDIG. I want to see if that nits really kicks in. I want to see the processor. But to see the implementation of the 900D's AI neural upscaler or Sony's prototype, I think I'm going to lean towards the 900D FOMO because we'll be able to turn that on and off. So I want to see what that upsampling or upscaling is going to be like. So for me, that's what I'm really excited about, is to see the 900D. Let's just say that. So Samsung 900D 8K, just because they have the new processor and it's going to have a feature where you can enable it. And it'll be something we can see.
That's a good point. I'm more interested in seeing the 900D 8K processor than I am with a brighter G4. Now, I am interested in seeing the G4's AI. The AI processor that was designed to go against the XR Clear. So that I'm interested in seeing, but I'm not interested in the 3,000 nits on the MLA, honestly, because there's no content. I mean, you know, oh, 4,000 nits. No, we're all excited.
Yeah.
We're excited for the future because we're hoping to see 4,000 nit content.
Yeah.
All I got is the same tired Pan, Mad Max, and the horses in the snow that you guys seen. I don't know how many times.
The fence. Can't see
The
the
4,000
fence.
nits, it's not going to move, or 3,000 nits is not going to move the needle with the house,
Yeah.
the horses in the snow. Oh, look, I see more grass, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, it's definitely the AI G4 versus the XR Clear versus the 900D. All AI, AI, AI. That's my most
Yeah.
anticipated side by side is image processing upscaling 720p. So if we can get like a cable feed or just something with low resolution or bad YouTube TV, how do they clean it up? So yeah, that's a good point about the upscaling. I didn't think about that. Definitely.
So FOMO, we have a super chat from Kenyatta 639.
Okay,
He has a super chat, but he has his comment. I think is before the chat. He has a separate
Oh,
super
got it.
sticker.
Thank you, Kenyatta.
And then if you look at
I see it. I see it.
639,
Listen,
what's up,
is this
Kenyatta?
it?
How are you?
Oh, hey,
I think so.
hey, thanks for
I'm
your
guessing
patience.
that was his question.
First time on chat. Thank you
Welcome
for coming by,
to the
Kenyatta.
family. How
you
are you?
guys rock. Hey, come on by and stay for the comedy. I'm coming from a Samsung MU9000 65-inch decision. 77-inch S90, 83-inch S90, or QN90C. Any thoughts? Your 65-inch, I really like the 83-inch S90 because the brightness will be similar to what he's getting from the 9000. So you're not going to go dimmer.
It'll be brighter.
And I assuming you're not a gamer, Kenyatta. So the S90C's gaming virtues will be lost on you. You'll get the infinite contrast. You're used to Samsung, so the 83-inch Tizen will be more of the same that you're used to. I really love the immersion that a good OLED will get you. And I'm assuming you're sitting 8 feet away, 7 to 8 feet away, which most people do from a 65-inch. Now you're finally getting to that 50-degree viewing angle that you should be at. From a 4K OLED, you're not going to go back. I think that's a solid TV. The close second would be the 77-inch S90 because, again, OLED, but actually, no, 85-inch QN90. You're coming from LCD TV. Stick with LCD, either 83-inch or 85, because I do want you to go as large as you can. But if you're only 6 feet away from the 65, or 7 feet away, then the 77 is fine. So 77 S90C if you're 7 feet away. But if you're farther than that, 8, 9, 10, I got to go with the 83 or the 85 QN90C. Brian, what do you think?
Kenyatta, baby. I'm saying right now.
Because
you have the MU right now. Just go right to 85 Q90C.
Okay.
Don't even make it. Here's why I'm going to tell you, Kenyatta. The world is pushing mini LED. We're all heading that way. I don't want you jumping in the OLED pool to only have to get out of the OLED pool in 3 years.
Everyone's getting off the bus and he's getting on.
It's Kenyatta. It's nice in the OLED pool, and it's going to be cold going from the pool to the jacuzzi, but people are going that way. So for us OLED guys, we are going to have to I don't think we're going to have a choice. So I don't want to have you jump in unless that's your TV for the rest of your life. I don't want you jumping into the OLED pool. If you're going from a 65 MU9000, you already appreciate Samsung. You're staying with Samsung for a reason, I'm imagining. I would just forego OLED altogether because 83 is a weird size. Just jump to the 85-inch QN90C, call it a day.
Fair enough. And
because it'll be brighter. The processing's better.
Yes.
It's you know what it is. This is what I'll tell you, Kenyatta. There's no fear of burn-in, which is not something we're afraid of anymore. I think the S90, even the S90 83, is brighter than your TV. It's going to be better, but I rather just see you go the brighter, more saturated Neo QLED, more of what you already like, just a lot more and larger, and call it a day. I think you'd be very happy. I wish I was that happy.
I think you have me convinced. I might have to make.
FOMO is the size guy now. If you guys like watching our old videos, please go back to like last year. He's like, get a 47-inch. Now he's like 180. 180. They're like, Kenyatta, for you. They're like, I want a TV for my daughter's room. She's in college. Go 120. He needs a 120. Get rid of the bed, the refrigerator. But he was the guy that always said he was always 65 is a good size. Now he's like, nope, 1,000 inch. So I would do that, Kenyatta. I just think because you're already accustomed to an edge lit TV, you'll love mini LED, you'll love the brightness.
True.
And I do think 83 is a weird size. Once you go 83, you might, then there's a set, you have to go bigger, but then here's my thought, really, honestly. Once you see the infinite contrast, when you do want to go larger, you have to lose something. We all will lose the infinite contrast. I don't want you to have to taste it and then lose it.
That is a good point. If he stays in mini LED, he could always go larger and improve his image quality.
Yes.
If he goes OLED, he's stuck at the 83 or 77 inch.
I'm stuck there, Kenyatta. I'm stuck there. I'm stuck. That's why the TV's 10 miles away.
So
I couldn't get an LED.
Remorse.
I'm ready, but you can tell I'm honest. I don't want you sitting in the jacuzzi with me. Afraid to go in the big pool.
Everyone's moving to the big boy pool with a water slide.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. There's no infinite contrast.
Where's the bubbles? Where's everyone?
Turn the jets on. I hope that helps.
Hey,
he's like, it didn't help because it didn't help at all.
He's like, no.
Oh, you're going KS 8000.
You heard it. You're in the same situation. Get the QN90.
Same thing.
And by the way, I did like the QN90C a lot last year as well. So it's a good TV. Yeah. Definitely an improvement for you guys, for sure. That's funny. Oh,
how was a mini LED is definitely not a flagship TV. How is it not a flagship TV?
Oh, it's a flagship.
If it's their Mac, it's their flagship.
The difference between the Q95C and the Q90C is so minimal. Like someone has said, unless you're side by side with the right content, the Q90C is fine. Definitely.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, last year the Q95C was a big difference, but there was like 5 of them. So you guys never really had a chance to see it anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it.
And speaking of large TVs, at the pace we are going, projectors are going to be phased out soon. I think so. I went from a 10-foot wide long throw projector to an 85-inch QMA and do not see myself going back to projection. The contrast is so much better. The HDR, right? You see HDR. And what's interesting is, if you guys have noticed, Epson has been suing all of its competition from China left and right, because it's like, we're on our last legs. We got to recoup as much money as we can, because this is Epson's market. Epson's market is the entry-level, budget, barely mid-tier, long throw, short throw projectors costing $6,000 and less. They're in big trouble. This is like 80% of their revenue in terms of home theater projectors, and suddenly you got $2,000 98-inch TCLs out there eating them for lunch. Yeah, definitely a problem.
That's tough.
All right. Joe, thank you for that super chat. Here's your question. Love my living room 55-inch A95L, but really want to go larger by the end of 2024. Wow. A year later, we've been talking large, and he's going to go larger, beginning in 2025. Which $3,000 to $3,500 2023 TV or 2024 85-inch TV would you suggest to watch for the $3,000 to $4,000 budget? For sure, the 2023 X95L will be dropping to your budget. Let me tell you, let me see what it is right now, and I'll tell you what to expect it to be by Prime Day. X95L. So currently, the Sony X95L, where are you? Best Buy does not make it easy to find, I'll tell you that.
No, they do not.
It's unbelievable. I can't even pull it up directly anymore. We'll just use it. We'll just look at the X93L for now. It's just ridiculous. Wait, it's got to be here. Here it is. I'll use this as a proxy for price. Okay, $3,800, right? So the X93L is an excellent TV. If the X95L can drop to under $4,000, get it. Excellent TV, 85-inch size. It's in your budget. The X93L is also an excellent TV as well. Either one, but this one is not going to sell out anytime soon because it's so expensive. So if you wait till Prime Day, this might drop even further. But this is about what you can expect. Now, you're a Sony person. You love the Sony A95L, so you're likely going to buy another Sony. I don't think the new one, the 2024 one, will be less than $4,000. It's probably going to start off at above $4,000 and stay there for quite a while. What do you suggest, Brian, for an 85-inch 2023 or 2024 for under 4,000?
Under 4. Wow, I can't believe we're asking for that. I don't know. Under 4,000, that's a tough spot. 85-inch. I like what you have on screen.
Right? The X93Ls are pretty good, right?
X95L. Only because, again, I know the XR clear, but I saw it against the X90. It looked phenomenal. I like the TV a lot.
Here we go. Found it. And 1 second.
And the X95L is actually, it doesn't seem brighter in some cases, but it's
so look at this. X95L is 4,500. It's not $1,000 better.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's a little bit better. So the X93L is my choice. This is just.
I would say yeah, because you get what you need.
I think you're good. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Do you agree that Mini LED is definitely not a flagship TV? I know Sony is placing it as a flagship technology this year. It's going to be their most expensive TV.
Well, for Samsung, it's been the flagship forever. In the 900 from their 8K is their flagship, period.
And Kenyatta's adding some detail to his question. Mostly movies and streaming. And after listening to Brian, though, I knew Brian would suggest the Q90C. Go large, go large. Thank you, guys.
It worked.
Hey, let us come back. Let us know once you get it how you enjoy it for sure. And it's also the settings are very easy too. So if you have any issues with settings, come on by and we'll definitely help you out there. This is very good question, advice, and I think it requires our input. Last says the best advice for buyers: don't buy anything you haven't seen in person with a variety of content. So unless you're visiting Robert Zone at Value Electronics, who will give you your variety of content, he will allow you to sit in his store with your disc, and he will introduce you to all the different contents and all the different picture modes. Best Buy, or actually, let's start with Costco. You're not going to do that at Costco. Best Buy, maybe. Brian, will Best Buy let him look at a variety of content in a way that will allow him to choose multiple TVs?
No, they just have a feed now. They used to have Blu-ray players and things like that
in the Magnolia room, right? Something like that. Now it's just a feed that you're stuck with.
It's just a feed. Yeah, it's not. And it's not even demo material anymore. So it's either demo material from Samsung or they have a lot of. There isn't a Blu-ray player attached to them anymore. It used to be they'd have a book of discs. They'd walk around. So Lance, that's great advice. It's just not practical. And most of the models aren't in store. So I think you're right, but I don't think it.
So actionable advice, which is if you're near a local boutique dealer like Value Electronics, absolutely. If you're not, you're stuck with either the buy it for 30 days, return it, buy it for, and if you do that enough, Best Buy and Amazon will blacklist you and you can't buy it at all. So the question becomes, what's the best way of seeing it in person? I don't have an answer for that, honestly. I mean, the best way without seeing it in person is find a reviewer whose review content and preferences are similar to yours. Some reviewers love soap opera. Some reviewers hate it. Some reviewers will tolerate a little bit. So that's motion. Some reviewers watch only streaming, and most reviews is about streaming. Some reviewers only watch Blu-ray. Some reviewers watch a little bit of everything. Some reviewers only game, right? Some reviewers only watch Prime Video. So maybe a collection of different reviews will narrow it down. But most importantly, if you have a certain budget, there's almost a consensus beyond the reviews that it goes back to the wisdom of the crowd. If you watch enough of our live streams, our videos, and other reviewers and read enough, you get a strong sense of what TV kind of fits your needs, like gaming. By now, I think we all know it's either going to be an LG or a Samsung, specifically the S90C or the G3. C3 has certain limits, B3 has certain limits, but if you watch enough content, you'll know, oh, you know what? I need ABC. I have to get the C3 or the G3 or the S90C, or I'm willing to tolerate the A80L because I need XR clear. So yeah, it's really hard to do that now, short of going to a boutique dealer.
So we recommend what we do is watch all the reviewers you can, pick a model, and then try and go see it. But then again, you're just seeing the build quality. and you're getting a gen. That's why I still do the Best Buy walkthroughs and the Costco walkthroughs, just to give you a little bit of a feel of what they really look like. You can get some, even though they're all in retail mode, you still get an idea of how they look different from one another. But that's, as far as them getting to show you what you want to see, it's difficult.
And I want to address the banner I put up. 2020, the ticker, 2024 Sony OLED TV lineup, QD OLED. This is a reminder for me to address this before we go. So Sony will have a 2024 QD OLED. And the rumor is, it's not been confirmed, but based on my understanding and Brian's, right, and this is something that we've been speculating, and we think we're on the right track here, is that the A95L will continue into 2024. That's their QD OLED. Any improvements will be invisible to you in that they'll be using the 3rd gen Samsung display QD OLED, but it won't be anything drastic to the degree that the software is optimized for it. It'll look good. Now, will the performance improve? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I know Sony would rather not, because they're going to have a huge protesters with pitchforks on their hands.
They won't.
So I would hope that they would introduce a different label this year, like instead of A95L, maybe A96, A94, just to separate that 3rd gen, if they do optimize software for it so it looks a little different, everything else being the same. But we don't expect any changes to their OLED or QD OLED other than receiving the latest panels from LG Display and Samsung Display. Processing should be the same. You know, firmware updates being what they are might be slightly improved. The big deal this year is more dimming zones across the board for the LCD TVs, especially 4000 nit flagship mini LED, which will get the most dimming zone improvement.
Well, and the Gen 3 panel, other than the increased brightness, it's about efficiency. So they would want the efficiency for longevity, but they would stop it with processing to keep it from being brighter. They're not going to let them be bright. They're tested too much, and then they would do an A95 XL or whatever. I can't see them doing that. So that's a problem with a lot of what they do, is they keep these things from being brighter. They turn it on and off. They wouldn't do that to the customer. I'll tell you that.
And Jordan has a great comment I'm going to address. I would only hope the durability to burn-in on OLED would improve. And so the irony is that burn-in has improved to the point where the longevity of an OLED TV has now surpassed the LCD TV before burn-in becomes an issue. So if you're considering an LCD TV because you think you're avoiding burn-in, the LCD TV will fail for other reasons unrelated to burn-in before burn-in on the OLED you stop working, right? So I think burn-in is a non-issue compared to the competition. Now, if you're looking at OLED by itself, well, I want a TV that never burns it. Obviously, OLED always has that risk. But what's your alternative? If you pick an LCD TV, you're going to have other issues. First, you're going to have DSE, dirty screen effect, that pops up years into it. TV stops working altogether. Just, it feels that OLED are, because it's a higher, it's not even because of higher end. We saw some flagship LCD TVs in the longevity test fail from Sony, right? So ultimately, we're at a point where burn-in is a non-issue in terms of overall longevity. Now, burn-in and of itself is always a risk for OLED, but I think it becomes less of an issue if you take into context your alternatives aren't better, because they're going to introduce issues that are worse than burn-in, like banding or DSE, right?
Yeah.
And thank you for the super chat, Lee Joseph. He saw the X93L at Best Buy, and it really surprised him. Torn between it and the X95L. Well, you saw the price difference. X95L, if that's your budget and it doesn't pain you to pay the extra $900, get the X95L. The X93L is an excellent TV because it is the X95K, which was also an excellent TV. But you're also saving, what, $800 or so? So at the end of the day, if you cannot tell the difference, Lee, get the X93L. Brian, what would be your recommendation?
So, Lee, I just put a video for you in the chat. That's my comparison of the 85-inch X93 versus the X95. In most of the shots, I preferred the X93. It was brighter. It had a brighter look to it. The local dimming on the X95 is better, but it is dimmer for that reason. It's aggressive. So the X93 to me was more pleasing in a lot of the shots. The processing is better on the X95 because the XR clear. But I think for what you're looking for, I think you're better off with the X93. I think it's a great TV.
Well, that introduces why the XR90 for 2024 was introduced. It takes the best of the X93L, the brightness, and the best of the X95L, the dimming control, They put it together because it
Mhm.
has more dimming zones, and they add another $2,000 to the purchase price, and now you have it.
Yeah, voila.
Nothing is free, my friends. Hey, Raylo, thank you for the super chat. He's considering,
Oh,
or
that's a
she
tough one.
is considering a switch from OLED to either a QM8 or U8K. Console and PC gaming and movies. Oh, I love these questions. They're so similar, but different thoughts. Okay, your OLED is a better gaming TV overall. So if you're going to QM8 and U8K, you're saving money for a larger TV, or paying the same for a larger TV with more HDR impact because it's brighter. Uh, but if you're looking at PC gaming, it tells me you're a bit of an enthusiast. Don't switch. Stay with the S90C. Now, if you need it large, like an 85-inch, 83-inch LG G4 may be the only way to go this year. Brian?
Same thing. I mean, it's hard. I game on a C1 still, and none of the LEDs that I've seen in the last few years are something I would ever switch to, because also game mode, the processing is disabled. So a lot of the extra picture settings you like are gone. You don't rely on those. You don't rely on those with your OLED because you don't need them, because the contrast is there. That contrast really fades out in game mode, especially on the U8K. QM8, I've not seen it change that much, but it's a hard sell. Unless you really need the size, you are going to lose a lot in picture quality and pixel response. The pixel response for an OLED is instantaneous. There is going to be blur that you never noticed before that you're not going to unsee. So it's really hard to recommend that.
Yeah, agreed. I think anyone that is even semi-serious, and when I say semi-serious, I mean you really enjoy gaming. You notice the
Yep.
little things. You notice the motion. They will only game on an OLED. Everyone. KG, Classy, myself, Brian, we know. Even if it's only a Sony A80L, we'd rather game on that or the
Yeah.
A95K than on an equivalent mini LED, because the drop in image quality is significant. In game mode, QM8 and U8K does not look as good. In
Well,
their
yeah.
best mode, right? Filmmaker, standard, whatever, completely
Yeah.
different than in game mode. Now, game mode's okay, but it's not what it was on the other modes. Or you add latency if you preserve the saturation and the contrast. Whereas in
Yeah.
OLED, there are no compromises because that's just the nature of
Yeah.
the technology.
Well, even with the QN95C, which I was ready to buy, 85 inches, I tested that TV so much I didn't even review it. And when I went over to Call of Duty, the black level was all gray. So, and there's nothing I could do about it. You can't make the black level any deeper on an LED. You can crush it a little bit on an OLED, but blue gray was what I was stuck with, and I just couldn't go there.
Right. I love this question because someone's complaining that we only talk about expensive TVs. Here's my recommendation that's not expensive. Derek says, I'm looking to upgrade from a Samsung H6400, mainly streaming SDR content. Any recommendations? Yes, the CU7000. Boom. You can get the largest size you want. It stays under 1,000 if you get it at Samsung.com, Best Buy. You can get some good sizes depending on the deal. The CU7000 streaming SDR content, rock solid if you want to stay with Samsung. If you want to go outside Samsung, the U7K is solid. The Q7, personally, if I'm not loyal to Samsung, I would go with the TCL Q7. Q7 is just so good for everything, and SDR looks great. But if you definitely don't need HDR, then stay with Samsung CU7000 solid TV, and it's a
Definitely.
good price too. Yeah.
Well, and that Samsung in comparison to everything in its price point, I saw again Costco. The LGs at that price point are so damn
Terrible. Yeah.
terrible. So actually, LG we don't recommend anything underneath the QNED line. Period.
Yep. Hammer has a great question that this is what I ask people what they need to do, or tell people what they need to do. How are folks dealing with having a 120 hertz TV to play Xbox or PS5 and only have a 60 hertz AVR? So use your TV as a switch. Your TV has eARC. I'm assuming your AVR has eARC the other way.
That's how they do it.
So TV is a switch, send video to the TV, send the audio out of the TV with the eARC to the AVR, but you got to split it. You got to have your TV be the switch however you can, because otherwise your AVR is going to ruin everything. I mean, it doesn't do VRR properly. If it's only 60 megahertz, it probably doesn't even do VRR, doesn't pass it properly, may not even pass Dolby Vision properly. Your TV is now your switch. And then hopefully the eARC connection or the ARC connection to your AVR works. That's
I have a Denon 6700H. It is 8K. It is all that. And I still use the eARC. I still don't trust putting my console through it or my PC through it. It'd be great to use all those ports, but I'm not messing with it. No way.
Excellent. All right. Brian, it's almost 2 hours. Oh, how much longer do you have you for?
Probably for a bit longer. Yeah, I got to get running. We have to film
All
part of
right.
our video
All right.
anyway.
Okay, guys. Last call for questions. We'll wrap it up in about 5-10 minutes. But you guys, I have to say, thank you so much for being here. Click like. There's 460 of you. We hit 500 at one point, Brian. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
You guys are so excited about Sony. I am too. And let me see here. Some good questions. I'll pull it back up real quick. Okay, what would you consider the best 65-inch TV for under 700 that looks as good as the Sony X90L?
Damn, JR.
Oh,
Like I said, 40-year-old virgin for a price of on the house. Your phone. The phone you already own. 700.
The X90L, okay, it would be the U7K, and you learn how to calibrate the U7K. I would choose the Q7, but its skin tones are not as good as the X90L. Whereas with the U7K, at least you can calibrate it to look as good as the X90L. But the U7K will still fall behind the X90L in terms of contrast, motion, and just overall punch. The X90L is closer to the QM8 U8K in performance. But given your budget, it has to be the U7K, and you could tweak it to be closer to the X90L than you can with the Q7. But yeah. Good question. And Quackfu wants to know, hey, he's watching YouTube watching us on his QN98, which is, I thought was a good TV. I thought it was better than the QN90B, for sure. It took until the Q90C to get back to what the Q90A was. But the Q90A still had better blacks than the Q90C. The Q90C is a ADS panel. The Q90A is the last VA panel in the QN90 series. Yep. So you're giving up something. Now the Q90C has better off angle, but on angle, the Q90A, just phenomenal contrast. One of my favorite TVs.
And QN90A had great flexibility. If you got out of filmmaker mode and you jumped into some other presets, it comes alive. Standard, especially. Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing this week, Brian? What videos are we shooting?
So we're shooting our 2 videos. We're doing Best Buy. We're doing a FOMO versus best or buyer's remorse, that tech therapy video. And then we're also doing shill video is one of our tech therapy videos. So you guys are getting tech therapy videos simply because I want to get those out before the TVs come out. Once they come out, there's very few discussion videos. We're then full throttle. So I imagine FOMO, as soon as April hits, we have some events coming up that FOMO and I are attending together. And then it's full throttle TVs. So right now I'm enjoying at least on my channel as well, discussion-based content between us. Because you guys want that during the year. We just don't have time. During the year, it'll be 2 or 3 videos a week of TVs. So I want to get that done. So we'll be doing the, again, FOMO versus buyer's remorse, which we had a lot of that in this conversation here. So that's a big thing for you guys. People say that, TV buying is not emotional. I highly disagree with that. I think you guys are making a lot of emotional purchases.
If you go to ABS forums, you see the emotion. It gets
everyone's like, why do people get so wrapped up about TVs? I'm like, you're on a live stream with 500 people that are making that choice. And I do think audio-visual and probably gaming is, it's where these appliances are emotional versus a dishwasher. It's good. It cleans the dishes. You're happy. Stove cooks food. You're happy. TVs, that's where you really settle in and go, I don't know. And they do change enough. And this year we thought would be not a big upgrade year, and we're totally wrong about that.
What was I wrong?
Many upgrades. And everyone's going in different directions, which is awesome.
Yes.
I love when they're not heading this. And that's why we'll say FOMO, probably a byproduct of OLEDs. We were thinking everything was going OLED. We thought it would be very boring. We thought refinement this year. The fact that LEDs are back the way they are, everyone is they're literally shooting in a bunch of different directions, which is great. We don't want them looking the same. We want them to be very, very different. So OLED is in full force. Mini LEDs back. Like we never thought it'd be back like this. And then Samsung and Sony are going in different directions, which is actually better for us. So, and we mentioned this before, FOMO, about calibration. I hate when they look the same. I don't want them looking the same. I want them to look at the reference monitor for that one test. Then I want to see what their take their engineers have a take on what they think standard is what you want to see. They put a lot of work into those presets that we just throw away. So at M-Wave, that's where FOMO and I will use the presets against each other instead of calibrating them to look the same.
Yeah.
So I want, how do you like, so if I calibrate these all to look the same, FOMO, you know that they calibrate well. But at home, you're not calibrating it. So you're relying on daytime mode, HDR, Hisense's mode. Well, I don't know where that other mode is, FOMO. Well, you're not calibrating it. So you're relying on that preset. So that's why I like some of the comparisons where they look different. Standard versus standard, sports versus sports, whatever. They all have value, and they're all going in different directions this year.
And with that, we're going to close out with a couple of last-minute questions and super chats. Thank you, Getty. I'm thinking of walling my 100-inch TV. He's going to call Brandon. So if you guys don't know, our good friend, B the Installer, is doing a lot of installations locally in Southern California. So if you have a 100-inch TV, Southern California, go to his channel and tell him, hey, I don't mind having a superstar. The last install he did, I was there. He did a 97-inch M3 LG. That thing was like $30,000. Bought it at Robert's Value Electronics, and did that install. That was pretty cool. And here's a good question. Pete asked, what was the most people that I've ever had on a live stream? I think we hit 600 at one point, and it was probably during one of our comparisons. I forgot which one it was, but normally 400 to 500 is what I see. And this is actually our largest of 2024 so far. But in 2023, once all the TVs were out, it was pretty steady between 400 and 500. Yeah.
We had, during the shootout, we had 900,
800 sometimes.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Brian is always 100% correct. And when he's not,
what's up, Antonio?
Who's watching?
I'm sure that's and check out my channel too. I never even mentioned that I actually have one. Check out my channel, please.
Formerly Whisper Status 74, now more commonly known as Brian's Tech Therapy. Yes.
Appreciate it.
And people will die on that OLED hill for sure. Let me double check. We have one more super chat.
I mean, like I said, SB though, when people are talking about that 4,000 net content, man, when it's in a lot of movies, I'm gonna die on that hill too, and then I'm gonna run out and die on that mini LED hill.
Well, you were gonna die in the mini LED hill.
Been on it,
and then you swapped to OLED, and then you're back.
God. And I swapped to OLED years ago. I just wanted mini LEDs to do well, and then finally, when I succumbed and said, you know what, fine, OLED is the way to go. All of a sudden, mini LEDs are the thing again, and FOMO's over here recommending giant ones. I'm like, what is going on? It's Twilight Zone right now.
You know what? With that comment, I think I have a great closing comment. Aqua Neon segues for me. But Getty, thank you for the super chat. Sony Motion needs to be better. By the way, Mr. Super Chat. So definitely there's a lot of disagreement about Sony Motion. And I think this applies to all TVs. Like, what do you guys mean by the motion? What setting or what content are you watching where you don't like the Sony Motion? Because for movies, I think it's great. But maybe for sports, right? So
or again, if you're somebody who's pushing multiple motion interpolation and you see it struggle, I don't know if that means it's got poor motion. You can say it does bad with poor, if it doesn't have great soap opera effect, then maybe we can agree with that. I don't use it like that, so I wouldn't really know. I don't push it that hard. But I think that's all about, and also, FOMO, how sensitive are you to it?
Yes, that's another thing. Some people don't even notice it.
I don't notice it as much. So.
Yeah, I mean, some people, like, they live their whole life with bad motion. Like, you tolerate it, right? So
yeah.
Now, Aquania has a great comment. Why does LCD win in M-Wave? So we talked about how great the QM8 was last year. And this is why. On regular content, and people come in like, wow, what is that TV? There were no black bars, right? It was on full screen. It was Jennifer Gallo's content. And then we did some Super Mario Brothers. When it's in full screen, the weakness of the QM8 is not seen because, first of all, Super Mario Brothers, and all the TVs were calibrated, and Jason Dustle calibrated the TVs. Yep. The QM8 we happen to have calibrated perfectly. He was like, oh my God, this is one of the best calibrations I've ever done on a TCL.
It was a beast.
And it was a perfect match for all the OLEDs. And so everyone were, to a man, even our friends on the stream who saw, like, well, why does the A95K look a little washed out? It's because the QM8 was so bright and so contrasty that when the camera exposed for it, the TVs that could not match its brightness and specular highlights look washed out. And the people there, though, forget the camera exposure. The people there said, is that QM8? Is that a OLED. Now, once you turn on the lights, suddenly it doesn't have the
Yeah.
anti-glare.
Yep.
And then the Sony stood out because the anti-glare. And then once you change the content, you added black bars, then the OLED start to come to life, right? But in most content, SDR, sports, Mario Brothers, cartoons, that QMA just knocked the socks out of everyone. And that's when Brian and I said, this is trouble for OLED, because the A95K that was there at the time, 3 times more expensive. I mean, it's like, why would
Yeah,
you
so
think that's
we
possible?
had projector guys. They're big enthusiasts with picture
They
quality.
wanted a large
came in
TV.
and they were just like, "Damn, that QM8 looks good." And then when we told them that the 85-inch QM8 cost the same as the 65-inch G3, that was it. They were, and then I think
G3.
the one thing, the G3, the one thing that held people back though was it's just that TCL brand name gives everybody pause, just because those brand names, just reliability,
That is true.
cheapness. Is it going to last me? But then our retort to that is, for $2,000, how many years do you want it to last? Do you want it to last 30 years? So,
and Paul, you have the last thought so that I can give you my closing thought. Yep, TVs are getting too bright. Changed my mind. So the TVs are not getting too bright per se. Rather, if your TV is set in filmmaker mode, it will only be as bright as your source. So right there, it's not going to be too bright. Filmmaker mode will match the source, assuming it's somewhat okay, right? Samsung, LG, Sony, they've done a good job. Where it gets brighter, it needs to be bright specular highlights. So if your movie requires 2,000 nits of specular highlight, the TV doesn't get to 2,000 nits. Only those little highlights, the candle, the window, whatever it is that needs that 2,000 nits, the TV will hit it. And that's the creator's fault, right? The creator is the one that made it bright, not the TV. The TV is only attempting to get there. Now, you could make that TV brighter than necessary, vivid mode, a standard mode. So all of that is there for those who want super bright sports in a super bright room because they have glare. But if you put it in Filmmaker, it is no brighter today than it was 3 years ago when Filmmaker was released. The whole point of Filmmaker is just match the source. So if it matches the source and it's too bright, you got to blame the Filmmaker. The TV isn't attempting to be brighter than the source, only to be bright to match the new source that's coming out requiring 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 nits. So, Paul, hopefully that changed your mind. Brian, last thoughts.
Well, yeah, and Paul, I mean, honestly, I know Caleb's whole thumbnail with his like blinding away. These TVs aren't going to be 4,000 nit full field in your face all the time. I mean, they're brighter, but it's specular highlights, it's windows, it's small shots. It's, I mean, I really don't, I think you guys are looking a little too much into it as far as you're going to leave there very tan. It's not going to be Oppenheimer where you're going to be sitting there with the glass.
Come
on, you have to watch it like, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, they're not that bright because they're going to be full field in your face. They're talking about HDR specular highlights. When you see it now, so granted, to that point, when you're watching Batman, Superman, and there is that scene where he flies up and he pans, yeah, you should look away because that was the point of the director is going to be making that specific scene hit at that brightness. That's what the intent of HDR has always been. So yes, if you're afraid of getting hit in the eyes with a laser one movie a year, yeah, you should be concerned, but otherwise you're going to be fine. It's, we're chasing that because the creators want it.
Because
the creators want it.
Absolutely.
The creators want it. They want to add that to their movies. Is that going to work in Godfather? Probably not. But I mean, as far as new films, they want to differentiate. And that's what's so important about what Sony said, FOMO. They're not giving them the reference monitor and say, do something with it. They're demanding it. They want it. Yeah. They want to use it. So that's only great for us, where a few years ago when we were chasing brightness, what do we always say, FOMO? 1,000 nits is enough.
Yeah. Because
there was nothing really there. 5, 6 movies. Look at Atmos. When Atmos first came out, 2 movies. That's not going to be the case. These guys already have these TVs, so expect that kind of stuff. The reference monitors are out there. They've been out there for about 6 months. Expect next year to start seeing that kind of content. And that's where if you're sitting there with a 3,000 nit OLED, you can infinite contrast it all day. It's only 3,000 nits. There's no perception of more. That's where it's capped. These TVs will do it. And that's where it's going to be really interesting next year. Or this year.
And with that, we're going to end you with some information, something to think upon. Brand asks, is 4,000 nit 4 times brighter than 1,000 nit? No. So how nits work is, to get twice as bright as 1,000 nit, you go twice the number of nits. So 1,000 to 2,000 nits is twice as bright. 2,000 to 4,000 is twice as bright as 2,000 nits. For you mathematician out there, does that make it 4 times as bright as 1,000? Technically, it's only 3 times as bright then, right? Going from 1 to 2 gets you twice as bright.
Yeah,
And then twice, but then twice bright again of 2,000. Is that?
This is where your kids are like, that's actually 16 times brighter.
I know. I need to go ask ChatGPT, but I'll give you the base.
Go ask your daughter.
Twice,
honey,
and then twice again from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
But it's 1 to 4. Does that make it 4 times, or even more so perceptually? I'll let Classy answer that since he's the ISF certified calibrator. All right, my friends.
That is funny.
Hey,
yeah,
thank you
it's like
for
it's
showing
the power of 2, the power of 4. You're like,
power
actually, it's
of 2,
24. You're like, nah.
And Classy, you need to answer this question.
I think he said it's like twice as bright. It'll look like twice as bright.
And double R, I agree with you. I hate math. This is why I'm a YouTuber. If I was a mathematician, I wouldn't, right?
We'd be with channel 2 views.
And Classy wants us to know it doesn't even work that way either. So there you go, guys.
So actually, it's dimmer. It's dimmer. 4K is actually 4,000 brightness is -4.
Yes, perceptual brightness, logarithm, and distance. The farther you
logarithm math. Oh man,
right? So here we go. It's logarithmic math combined with it doesn't scale that way. Combined with, what does nits mean anyway? I thought nits was something in your hair that you have to buy to get rid of, right? But turns out nits is a unit of measure.
I have 4,000 lice in my hair.
And with that, hey, thanks for showing up. I'll see you all next time. Until then, stop the phone.
Take care, guys.